3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the palatial yet not overly ostentatious studios of CBS Sports Radio here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to an action-packed Tuesday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all of our great local CBS Sports Radio affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and of course streaming on YouTube. 855-212-4CBS, number to jump on in, 855-212-4227. You can always interact with me on Instagram, where I'm always straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter, at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. And Michael Santer, Manny Rodriguez riding shotgun with me all the way up until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. Coming up in 20 minutes from now from the Michigan football team, has 10 touchdowns on the season. Roman Wilson will stop by in the 4 o'clock hour. We'll tip off the NBA season with 7-time NBA champion Robert Horry. And then we got a Game 7 tonight. Not the best 2 words in sports. Game 7 is not the best 2 words in sports. Everyone says that All you people get told that all throughout the years. Oh, Game 7, it's the best 2 words in sports. World champions? Much rather be a world champion than a Game 7. But a bunch of you that go, oh, Game 7, best 2 words in sports. You're a bunch of sheep. And guess what? I'm a lion. All right, that sounds very douchey right out of the gate. But Brad Lidge, former member of the Philadelphia Phillies, is going to stop by. He will recap everything that transpired last night in Game 7 between the Astros and the Rangers, where the Texas Rangers are down 3-2, going back to Houston. You think a team like the Astros, with their experience, easy peasy, it's over. They'll win in either 6 or 7. Not the case. Adolis Garcia said, not so fast, my friend. And Bruce Bochy is off to another World Series. In 98, got there with the Padres, got to 3 World Series championships with the Giants, and now in year number 1 as the head honcho of the Texas Rangers, he is off and running to the Fall Classic, 4 wins away to continuing to add to what should be a Hall of Fame legacy. So we got that storyline out of the way with the Rangers going to the World Series, and we got to preview this Game 7 tonight between the Phillies and the Diamondbacks, where all the pressure is on the Philadelphia Phillies, who had that great record of 12-2. Leading into the game last night at home in the last 2 postseason runs for the Fight-Ins, and they lose last night to the Arizona Diamondbacks. So all eyes and all hands on deck in this Game 7. And Brad Lidge, former Phillies closer, will stop by at 5:20 p.m. Eastern, 2:20 p.m. Pacific today. All righty, let's start off with the latest with Michigan. The details are ugly. It is not good for Michigan, but it's not the end of the world, in my opinion. Anyone that's sitting here right now and is going on their platform and is saying, I can't believe what's happening, a sign-stealing scandal, Michigan needs to be held accountable, and they need to be held accountable right now, and you need to throw the book at them, and you need to make sure they're not eligible for the Big Ten championship and the college football playoff, you're a bunch of losers, and quite frankly, you don't follow how the NCAA operates. The NCAA operates like my mile time when I was 70 pounds heavier. They move as slow as possible, the NCAA. So anyone thinks just because the NCAA is annoyed at Harbaugh for giving some recruits a cheeseburger and he didn't take it on the chin and he didn't genuflect to the NCAA, and now all of a sudden the NCAA is going to swoop in and say, oh, we got enough evidence to suspend the coach for the rest of the year and say Michigan isn't allowed to compete in the Big Ten championship game. You're absolutely ridiculous. And it's a nonsensical take. And most of those takes are coming from Ohio State fans and from Penn State fans, where it's funny to me when actual serious things off the field were going on with Ohio State and Urban Meyer and Penn State with Joe Paterno. A lot of you sycophants for Penn State and Ohio State sat there and said, nope, Urban Meyer's king. He could do no wrong. Or Joe Pa didn't know. Joe Pa is the excellent person. He would never do something. He would never turn an eye the other way or a head the other way. Like, all you people that said those things now pop out of the woodworks because you're crazy, delusional college football fans, and you're demanding for Michigan to basically be sent to jail in the college football world. So let's be clear about this. Stealing signals is not illegal. You're allowed to steal signals. It's a part of gamesmanship. But if you are using video devices to steal signals, illegal. It appears that's the case from the information that we have that Michigan did that. If you are sending someone to an opposing, to a future opponent's game and you are recording their signals, that's illegal. So I'm not saying there doesn't have to be a punitive action, but there's a lot of times where illegal things occur and it's not as if you get the death penalty or you go to jail for the rest of your life. And I do believe the reaction, and I don't know how real the reaction is because you follow some things on Instagram, you follow some things on Twitter, you hear a few talk show hosts opine their opinion on the subject, and you go, does that really reflect all of society? I think a normal, sane human being says something wrong, and I think I'm somewhat of a normal, sane human being. Something wrong did occur. They need to be held responsible for it. But people freaking out as if this is the end of the world and this is like the worst thing we've ever seen happen to college athletics, just stop. Because it's really repulsive and you're embarrassing yourself. And quite frankly, you're embarrassing your families. So let's stop with the nonsense that this is the most egregious thing in the world based off the information that we have now. Because look how we kind of in the moment viewed Spygate, viewed Deflategate, viewed the Astros cheating scandal. And years removed, like we talked about the other day, there's still not an intense animosity for a team like the Houston Astros. You know, Deflategate didn't age well for all you people that were like, the Patriots footballs were under 12.5 on the PSI. So in the moment right now, because Michigan has been dominant, Michigan has been beating the snot out of everyone in the Big Ten for the last 2 years, I get it. You look at the turnaround, you look at the win total, you see the dominance, and you say, all right, something was up. But if you think Michigan defeated Ohio State last year, or the last 2 years, or the way that they just dominated and ran through Penn State's defense like a hot knife through butter was because they had some signs, like, give me a break. Look at the Michigan team. They're loaded on the offensive line. They're loaded on the defensive line. You have J.J. McCarthy, who's a damn good quarterback. You have Blake Corum, Donovan Edwards, Roman Wilson, who's going to join us coming up in about 10 minutes. You got Colston Loveland. Like, you got a loaded team. And there's a lot of players that are already off in the NFL that have been a part of what Michigan is building. So I'm not saying there's nothing here. But to make it out as if this is the worst thing in the world, I'm not going to join the mob. And I'm not going to say, let's rally up the troops and we need to put Michigan's body on a cross and carry them out, or on a board and carry them out. Like, that's just, I don't get outraged over this stuff. This is not something where I think this is the end of the world. And I understand. If something illegal did happen, which it looked like it did, there needs to be a punishment. But the punishment in this world to go to the extreme, and it's like, let's end their season right now, is flat out ridiculous. Because I can guarantee you this, and I know it's a subject of the integrity of the game, there's a lot of worse things that have gone on in college football and in college athletics than what Michigan is being accused of. And I'll go back to Spygate. Robert Kraft, in an interview that he did for a book, once said it about Spygate that he went to Bill Belichick and he said, I want you to be honest with me. On a scale of 1 to 100, how important and how much of an impact did Spygate have on the Patriots in terms of success on the field? And Bill Belichick, probably mumbling, said 1. And Robert Kraft responded, well, then you're truly a schmuck. So I think people that don't know football, I think people that are just fans, I think people that are just following this story, yeah, let's throw the book, this is the worst thing in the world. But when you hear a lot of people, and I'm not including myself in this camp, but when you hear a lot of coaches speak about this today, when you hear a lot of players speak about this today, most of them don't make this as big of a deal as you're making it out to be. So I will look at this, and I want more information, but I think I could acknowledge that Michigan did something wrong to the extent as to why this is why they've been winning the last 2 years, and this is why they've been dominant. I don't believe that to be fully true. There is something here. There needs to be some punishment. But people that are talking about bowl bans and they're talking about stopping their season right now, you're really an inane human being, if I may say so myself. Now, as for the future of Jim Harbaugh, I've been saying even before this goes back to the cheeseburgers. This goes back to the recruiting violations and the time where the staff members were in the building and working with players and they weren't allowed to be, that this was going to be Jim Harbaugh's final season at Michigan. I said that months ago. I stand by that today because Jim Harbaugh, even though he's not, he has no, there is a percentage of blame that goes to Harbaugh here. But for him, do you want to deal with this? Like, you have the background of having success not only in college, but also in the NFL. And with the success that he had in the NFL in a small sample size was massive. 4 seasons. Sure, he was a pain in the ass with the general manager and all that stuff in control. But 4 seasons, 3 trips to the NFC title game, and 1 trip to the Super Bowl. Jim Harbaugh, the decision's easy here. As much as this is your school, as much as you love your alma mater in Michigan, as much as you probably still want to be there, there has to be some itch for you to return to the NFL. And that itch, it's been scratched the last few years. He interviewed for the Vikings job for like 11 or 12 hours. He was trying to throw his name in NFL jobs last year as well. So now, where there's going to be some punishment, even before the allegations of sign signal stealing and all that, there was going to be an additional punishment of probably bare minimum 2 games because he wanted, or him and the infractions committee looked like they were agreeing to a 4-game suspension. He only served 3. So they're not just going to give him 1 extra game if there's going to be this fight. Bare minimum, he's probably sitting out the first 2 games of next season anyway. Now, there's going to have to be some punishment, and they're probably going to tack on a few more games. And there's going to be other sanctions to the program. So as weak as this could be, and you hate to leave the university in the dark and in a tough spot because of things that you allowed to have happen on your watch, ultimately, aren't we all selfish? Like, I know we all preach, oh, you got to do great things for everyone in this world and you got to help others. But most of the time, we are selfish human beings. And Jim Harbaugh is going to make a selfish decision where he's going to say, I don't want to put up with this crap. You know, I would love it if Jim Harbaugh puts the middle finger up to the NCAA and all of college football and says, bleep you. Like, I'm loving this Michigan storyline the rest of the year. We got a villain. We got a team that everyone can't stand right now. They're going to destroy Penn State in 2 weeks. They're going to hammer probably Ohio State, even though I probably think that game will be a little bit closer this year. Thanksgiving weekend. Like, I love the Michigan story. I want to see Michigan go on the revenge tour from their own problems and just flip off everyone along the way. So that would be cool if Harbaugh did that. But even if Harbaugh doesn't win a national championship this year, what's the incentive to stay? If you don't know how many games you're going to sit out next year and what sanctions the NCAA is going to impose on your program, and they're going to want to drop the hammer because this is now a you-know-what swinging contest between the NCAA and Jim Harbaugh. And that's what happens over and over again with the NCAA. It's usually a lot of minor infractions and a lot of more serious infractions get ignored. But once you have someone fight back and once you have someone that doesn't fall in line with the NCAA, even if you did some things that are wrong, they'll be a royal pain in the ass and they'll haunt you for a long time. So Harbaugh, after this year, he should be off to the NFL. And let's be real about it. If you're the Chicago Bears, you'd be stupid to not hand over your franchise to Jim Harbaugh. If you're a team like the Minnesota Vikings, you know, I do wonder, well, actually not Minnesota, but forget Minnesota. We'll talk about them later. But if you're a team like the Chargers, or if you're a team like the Bills, or the Commanders, like, you should go out there and bring in Harbaugh. Commanders, absolutely. They're going to be moving on from Rivera at the end of this year. The Bears will be moving on from Eberflus. The Chargers should be moving on from Staley. And then the Bills will see what happens with Sean McDermott, but that's a team that's ready to win, and they need a better coach. So there's enough teams this year, and Harbaugh has done enough where it should be something where this marriage develops and he divorces, I don't want to say divorce Michigan, but leaves Michigan and goes back, and it takes 2 to tango, and he'll return to the NFL. So those are my thoughts on everything happening with Michigan today. I think a lot of it is an overreaction where I'm not ignoring that something did occur, but to the way that people want to like tear down Michigan and throw the book at them, I think is just a great overreaction and very silly right now. All righty, this is Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. We will take a break. When we come on back, let's chat it up with Roman Wilson from the Michigan Wolverines, having a star season, breakout season for himself in his senior year, has 10 touchdowns. We'll chat with Roman Wilson on the Zach Gelb Show next.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Now Now back to the Zach Gelb Show.
If you need more proof that Jimbo Fisher should be fired, and Jimbo Fisher is the most overrated coach in the country, the only reason he still has a job is because of the $70 million buyout. But if you're a fan of A&M, that passionate fan base, you got to be demanding, you got to be imploring the boosters to pay and buy him out at the end of the year. Because the last 2 years, he's had really good rosters, and he's had really bad results.
Here's Zach Gelb.
We continue. This is Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on CBS Sports Radio. Michigan is 8-0, number 2 in the country, as they do enter their bye week. And now joining us on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio is a man that's made a living this year in the end zone. And he had another touchdown, his 10th of the season up against Michigan State. And that, of course, is wide receiver Roman Wilson. Roman, appreciate the time. Thanks for it. How are you?
I'm good. Appreciate you having me today, man.
Well, thanks so much for coming on. This has been such a successful season for you individually. 27 receptions, 446 yards, and 10 touchdowns. I know you've been given more of an opportunity this year, but why have you been able to take that baton and take it to the level of dominance that you've been able to?
I don't know. Maybe at the end of the day, maybe it's a big secret. But one thing I like to think about is just focusing on having good team success. Winning each week, not thinking about next week. Just focusing on our, doing everything I can to make the team better, whether that's being blocking, giving good effort, trying to be a better leader, taking my focus to the next level. I think all those things, they all add up, and then you start to have a lot of success by yourself.
And there's no ego on this team. You guys have a lot of mouths to feed. We know who the quarterback is. We know who the 2 running backs are. And there's a wide receiver each and every week that pops off for you guys. What is that camaraderie with the team like? Because it seems like you guys all feed off each other's success.
Yeah, I feel like this is the definition of a team. Everyone really loves each other. There's not really individual cliques throughout the locker room. Everyone kind of hangs out with each other. We all have a good time. We all bond really well. So I think it's just knowing that I feel like each person on this team knows that the person right next to you is very good too. Just like you, you're looking at yourself like, hey, I'm really good. But then I also understand that the guy next to me is also really good. So, it's just, you never know what's going to happen each week, whether it's going to be my turn or his turn or the guy next to him. It just keeps going. Someone's going to have a big week. And when it does, I feel like this team does a really good job of understanding that, everyone's going to eat. It's not just going to be one guy every week.
There's a lot of unfinished business with this team, even with you guys winning the last 2 Big Ten championship games. So many people make the Penn State game and the Ohio State game, right, as the big talking points for this program. How do you guys block out all that noise and get to this elite level week in and week out where there's really not many hiccups for you guys?
Yeah, well, especially in college football, if you lose one game, that could be your season. So just understanding that you got to win every single week, just to silence the fans sometimes, because the fans or whoever on Twitter or the internet or the media, they'll try to find anything to try to tear what we built up here down and kind of hate on it. So just understand that we got to come out every week and every day and, not take anything for granted and just give it all whenever we have the chance.
Talking to Roman Wilson right now. For you individually, with the team success and your individual success, more attention gets brought your way. People start talking about your future in the NFL. I'm just wondering, if an NFL GM came to you and said, Roman Wilson, what could you bring down the road to an NFL team? What would that answer be?
Just a guy who's ready to give it all, everything I got just to win a game, man. I love the win. That's all that matters in my heart. I'll do anything. I'll go out there and block. I'm play special teams. You need me to do something crazy, I'm all for it. You want to put me on defense, I'll play defense. Whatever you got to do, I'm ready to win a game. So that's what I want.
Roman Wilson here with us from the Michigan Wolverines, undefeated, ranked 2nd in the country. They're in a bye week right now. I want to hear more about your upbringing. I know your background. Growing up in Hawaii, you won 4 state titles. You guys won 38 straight games in high school. But tell me a little bit more about the high school version and even before that of Roman Wilson.
Yeah, so I was born and raised on the island of Maui. I grew up in Kihei. I'm a Kihei boy. That's what we like to call it. I went to St. Louis High School. It's got some big names there. Tua and Marcus Mariota went there. There's not much to it. It's an all-boys Catholic school. It was very hard, very dedicated. It was on a different island from where I was born, so it's very hard for me to be I got to leave all my friends behind and everything and just move to the school and kind of start a new life for myself. And it was hard.
Did that help you, though, adapt to the college lifestyle? Because going from Hawaii to Michigan is totally different.
Yeah, I mean that definitely helped me like moving on from certain schools when I was younger and kind of having to like adapt into new cultures and meet new friends. So it made this transition from Hawaii to Michigan a little bit easier.
We've seen so many people from Hawaii go on to dominate college football and also have successful NFL careers. Who were some of the players, though, when you were growing up as a kid paying attention to football that you really gravitated towards and kind of looked up to?
Yeah, for me, like in middle school, it was Marcus Mariota a lot. Just watching him go out there and win the Heisman. I remember being in like seventh grade or eighth grade and watching him get drafted after school. That was a big deal for me. And then right after that, it was Tua. I mean, I still remember this. I was in a driver's ed class, and I was in the back on my computer watching a national championship game, and I saw him come in and do his thing. And to me, like that's when I knew that I really wanted to go and play college football because man, what he did like made me feel like that's what I wanted. I wanted to replicate that, and I kind of want to give back to the community like both those guys do, and kind of way they step up for Hawaii and be a role model for them.
Based off you saying what you just did, it was a great answer. Roman Wilson here with us from the Michigan football team. Why did you ultimately choose to spend your college career at Michigan?
Just the school and the culture and everything. Coming here, I think we were ranked 6th at the time, and that's something I want to be a part of. I want to be a team that can win the national championship. I want to be a team that is a brotherhood for life, not just I'm just going to go through this cycle and get kicked out once my years are over. But once I'm done here, like I can always come back. They always welcome me back. They want me back. I'm going to be a Michigan man for life. So that's what I want to be a part of.
Let me ask you about your quarterback, J.J. McCarthy. He's having a sensational season. Just with your time being his wide receiver and seeing the work that he puts in, how have you seen him over the years grow as a player?
I mean, just stepping into that leadership role and becoming a leader of this team. Even when he was a younger guy, he's still a leader. Like he's our guy. Like there's no other way to put it. Like that's my guy. Like if I need something, I'm going to call him up. Like he gives back to our team a lot more than probably anybody does or has to. He's a cool vibey guy to be around. Very chill. I feel like I can come to him and talk to him about whatever. And he's also like just fun to be around. He's always he's never a negative guy. I feel like every time I come to him, like we're always laughing, having a good time. And he also puts in a lot of work and something that I like to do too. So I feel like we bond over that a lot.
He has put himself right in the conversation to go win the Heisman. He's right now, I know you can't participate in this, but he's the betting favorite to win the Heisman Trophy. If you had to make a pitch, like I'm a Heisman voter, why should people vote for J.J. McCarthy to win the Heisman this year?
Yeah, I mean, he's just the best of everything. I think somebody asked him about the trophy. He's just like, bro, I don't even care about it. Like, that's how locked in he is on this team. Like, he's the best leader. He's the best thrower. He's the best, like, on his legs. He's best at everything, like reading coverages, all that. Like, he's the best of both worlds, not just one category. Like, he has everything.
How did you find out this offseason, by the way, when Blake Corum was coming back? Because that was a big piece of news for the Michigan team and a big jolt of energy for your program.
I found out just like everybody else. I was at home watching it, but I kind of had a feeling he was coming back. He's got a little itch. He's got a scratch. So I mean, it was great to have him back. He's an elite player, probably one of a kind. You don't see him like too often. So it was very, very good, very exciting to see him come back.
Wrapping up with Roman Wilson, I got to ask you about the scandal right now that's going on with the sign stealing allegations. People are now calling Michigan cheaters. They're calling your coach into question. Just how do you respond to that? And when you hear those things, just how do you process it?
Someone in this building said it perfectly. We're whatever and right now, very good team. Someone's going to try to do something to tear us down, no matter what it is. And you just got to block it out. It is what it is. Someone's going to try to tear us down. You got to leave it alone. Were
the allegations at all when they were made public? Did they come to a surprise to you or like, wow, I wasn't expecting this to happen?
No, I feel like every year I've been here, something's always come up with someone trying to make some allegation or some scandal. So it's not a big surprise. I mean, we are Michigan. We're a big name, so it comes with it too.
Last thing I'll ask you, just when you take a look at this college experience so far, and I know that you have your eyes set on going undefeated, right? Winning the national championship game, beating Penn State, Ohio State, win another Big Ten championship and win it all. But when you reflect on your career so far at Michigan, just what are some of the memories that come back to mind with what you've already been able to accomplish?
For me, probably just growth. I mean, coming in here in 2020 and having a really, really hard year and seeing the culture and the rise of this team go from 2020 to 21, and then it's like, oh, how much better can we get from 21 to 22? And now it's, oh, how much better can we get from 22 to 23? I mean, people keep saying we're such a good team, but we still have so much more like space to go and so much time to get better. Like, you know what I mean?
What's your favorite Harbaugh story, by the way?
Probably lights just turned off.
It's all right. You can continue. It's good. We can still see it.
Favorite Harbaugh story is probably seeing him in the cold tub with his khakis on.
Wait, he has the khakis on in the cold tub?
Yeah, khakis in the cold tub on.
Man, that's someone that never breaks character. Well, Hey, Roman Wilson, you have an incredible season, 10 touchdowns. We're excited to see what keeps on happening with the football team. Appreciate you doing this, and good luck today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
There he is, Roman Wilson, joining us on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. We will take a break. We'll come on back. The Vikings win last night. What does it mean for their future this upcoming season? And also, down go the 49ers back-to-back weeks. Are we starting to get concerned about the team Kyle Shanahan coaches? Update first. Here he is, the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
And it's sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Insurance for motorcycles, boats, and RVs for protection on the road and on the water. See how much you could save at 1-800-PROGRESSIVE and Progressive.com. Tonight will be a special night in Denver where the world champions open the NBA season by getting their rings and raising the banner to the rafters. Then they'll tip off against the Lakers. The first title in franchise history was special, but head coach Michael Malone doesn't want his team to focus too much on the past.
Yes, we're going to raise the banner. We're going to receive rings. That's for last season. But tomorrow's game starts this season. And I want our guys to kind of wrap their heads around that and focus in on that, because that's the number one thing about tomorrow night is trying to get off to a great start from the best fans in the world.
The other part of tonight's opening night doubleheader features the Suns and Warriors in San Francisco. No Draymond Green due to an ankle injury. The Phillies host the Diamondbacks in Game 7 of the National League Championship Series. Arizona just 2 years removed from a 110-loss season and rallied with a win last night to set up the deciding game. The Phils looking back to the World Series after winning the pennant last year. The winner faces the Rangers on Friday in the World Series. The Giants move quickly to find their new manager. They'll reportedly name Bob Melvin to the post. I'm Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports is everywhere, at home, in your car, and of course on your phone and tablet. Find us on your local affiliate, SiriusXM Channel 158, or the free Odyssey app.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining.
2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio.
Ryan in Santa Barbara, I thought he was going to avoid me today after his 49ers didn't go down. What?
Come on, Zach.
What
Listen.
happened?
No,
What
here's the
happened?
bottom line. Don't talk. Don't talk. I guarantee the Niners will win the Super Bowl.
You lost.
You
and
won
your great
the
quarterback, hold on.
Super Bowl.
Your great quarterback, Brock Purdy, doesn't look like an
Yeah,
MVP when Debo and McCaffrey are out. Ryan, you want to beat me. You'll never
Love
beat
you.
me. I can out-scream you any day of the week. Get off my show.
This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Oh, Ryan in Santa Barbara. Where is he at? Let's put his face on a milk carton. We got to alert the authorities. We got to put the search committee together. Back-to-back weeks, the San Francisco 49ers go down. Last week, okay, your young kicker couldn't make a field goal. Things like that happen. But you're going up against Kirk Cousins in prime time on a Monday night football game, everybody watching, and that's the effort you give? You allow Kirk Cousins to look like he's a Hall of Famer when he's the farthest thing from it? Without Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, who had 2 touchdowns in and out of the game, TJ Hawkinson getting instructed to get hurt and then actually getting hurt. You know, that was not a pretty performance necessarily. It wasn't an ideal situation for the Minnesota Vikings, but they smacked you in the mouth, and I absolutely loved it. And the San Francisco 49ers, all those fans, you know, they have some cowboy-like qualities, their fans, like cockroach-like qualities, if you know what I'm saying. And how many 49ers fans told me a few weeks ago, Gelb, you're a fat idiot. Gelb, you're a moron. Gelb, you're a dope. Gelb, you're a loser. When all my take was, is Brock Purdy's a good quarterback, but Brock Purdy is more of a product of the system right now than when I look at him for me to say automatically he's definitely a franchise quarterback. And Brock Purdy last night almost threw an interception on that final drive, then did throw an interception on that final drive. So there's two takes about both these teams that we'll get to in just a second. But first, the Defensive Player of the Week is sponsored by the Navy Federal Credit Union, who proudly serves the Armed Forces, DoD, veterans, and their families. Their members are the mission. Learn more at NavyFederal.org. Nobody dominated the NFL this weekend like Browns defensive player Myles Garrett. The former number 1 overall pick had 9 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and a blocked field goal as Cleveland, here we go, Brownies, here we go, improved to 4-2. All righty, let's start with Minnesota, and we'll circle back to Ryan and Santa Barbara's 49ers, who now have not 1 but 2 losses on the season. The Minnesota Vikings, 3-4, started off the year 0-3. No hope, doom and gloom. 2 weeks ago, Justin Jefferson gets put on the injured list, so he's out a bare minimum 4 games. They've been 2 games without Justin Jefferson. I did not think the Minnesota Vikings would have something to play for the rest of the season. And I'll give credit to Pat Boyle yesterday, who said if they were able to win this game, then their schedule becomes very intriguing because of how easy their schedule is towards the back end of the season. Now, to be fair, Pat didn't think the Vikings were going to win the game last night. So he was operating under them being a 2-5 football team and still being able to go on a run. But last night, they win a game that they weren't expected to win, and now they're 3-4. And Kirk Cousins, you know, I tweeted this out during the game where I thought it was going to be a close game, but I didn't think the 49ers were going to lose. I tweeted out something along the line during the game that Kirk Cousins is better than what people give him credit for. He's a good quarterback, a very good quarterback, just not a great quarterback. But probably after this year, the Minnesota Vikings are going to move on from Kirk Cousins because the contract is up. Like, after last night, I don't know if they are going to move on from Kirk Cousins because you have to ask yourself, who are you bringing in? And now, if you're going to go on a run where you're going to win a few more games than what people expected, and maybe you make a run where you go to the playoffs, you're in the wild card, and you lose again for back-to-back years, consecutive years in the wild card round, you're not going to be having this great draft pick. And I don't operate under the belief that you draft a quarterback just for the sake of drafting a quarterback. Like, you have to fall in love with the quarterback. If you talk yourself into settling for a quarterback or, oh, I like this quarterback, oh, this quarterback one day could be a great quarterback, but I'm not sure right now if he'll be a great quarterback, that's when teams ultimately regret pulling the trigger and selecting a quarterback in the first round. So for someone like Kirk Cousins, who's solid, who's good, who you could win games with, but you won't ever win the game, the Super Bowl with, I think this is a tough decision for Kevin O'Connell and also for Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, the general manager, where I could understand why you want to move on. I could understand why you have not extended him again and why you operate under the belief that you're going to move on from Kirk Cousins after the season. But with how the offseason may play out, if there's no big trade, and how about how those big trades really worked out? You know, Stafford worked, but Russell Wilson hasn't worked with Denver. Deshaun Watson hasn't worked with Cleveland. We'll see if Kyler Murray becomes available. You know, Kyler Murray could be a fit with the Minnesota Vikings. Imagine Murray and Jefferson and Addison, whole lot of speed on that offense. Now, Kyler would have to study a new playbook, so that could be problematic as well. But I don't have the name right now that I could see matching up with the Minnesota Vikings. And there's always an unknown. There's always someone that becomes available that we don't think will become available. But Minnesota is an attractive destination. If you're a quarterback, you should want to join the Minnesota Vikings if you need a new home. Because they have Jefferson, who's a top 3 wide receiver in the sport. I know he's hurt right now. You have Jordan Addison, who was a stud and won the Blitnikoff Award when he was at Pitt, and then played a year with Caleb Williams at USC a year ago, and he was on and off the field because of injuries. But those 2 players alone, plus TJ Hawkinson, who's a good tight end, he's probably, with the level that he's paid, is supposed to be better, but he's a good tight end. So you have 3 really solid weapons there, and if KJ Osborne is your third wide receiver, that's a pretty damn good third wide receiver to have. So quarterbacks should want to join the Minnesota Vikings, but if there's not a disgruntled quarterback that becomes available, if there's not someone that's intriguing on the free agency market, if the Vikings don't have this great draft pick in the top 10, which now they may be playing themselves out of that, it's not a lock that Kirk Cousins isn't back next year. And maybe you do a 2-year extension or a 3-year extension that has an easy out, something like that. But Kirk Cousins, what makes him so tough is he's good. He's not good enough. He's not great, but he is good. And when you are good, can you get better? Sure. Is it easy, though, for the Vikings to find that better option in the interim? Not always. And remember, this is why the Vikings were very stupid before the start of the season. They didn't take care of Justin Jefferson before the start of the season. They should have paid him before the start of the season. And now, if Kirk Cousins goes somewhere else and you don't get a deal done this offseason, which you got to think the Vikings will, but if Justin Jefferson doesn't like that Kirk Cousins is gone, it doesn't like the way, or whoever you pick to replace Kirk Cousins, if Jefferson gets annoyed, then your franchise goes from somewhat relevant to irrelevant when Justin Jefferson says, I want to be out. I no longer want to be a part of the Minnesota Vikings. So if you're a Viking fan, it's a heck of a win last night. It's a great win. But now it's, can you continue that moving forward? Can you go on a run? And can you be a team that starts to look like the playoff team, not to the level of 13 wins from last year, but a playoff team, one of the top 7 seeds, wild card, 6 or 7 seed, and get in the playoffs, and in an open NFC, go make a run for it. Because I'll tell you, the biggest takeaway from the game last night, even though we just talked so much in a positive way about Kirk Cousins looking great, it's really the defense. That defense last year, Brian Flores takes over that defense. That was the 31st ranked defense in football last year. They were terrible, awful, putrid, lethargic. Look at me giving all those SAT words. Feel like I'm back in high school there for a second. And Flores comes in, and I know there's no Debo last night, my BFF. I know there's no Trent Williams last night. But that defense, still up against McCaffrey, up against the great rock out with your Brock out, Brock Purdy. Well, the 49ers didn't play this great offensive game. So I got to give credit to Minnesota's defense for taking a step in the right direction. I got to give credit to Kirk Cousins for playing well without Justin Jefferson. And maybe in 2 weeks you get Justin Jefferson back. But these next 2 weeks, they almost feel like must-wins. You go up against Green Bay, you go up against Atlanta. If you could be sitting a game above 500 after how disastrous of a start that you got off to, that's a heck of a job by Minnesota. But look at their schedule the next few weeks. Green Bay, easy peasy. Falcons, a little bit tough. Saints, no one's afraid of Derek Carr. Broncos, they stink. Bears, they stink. Well, actually, maybe different now with Bajan as their quarterback, but Fields will be back by then. Then you play the Raiders, they're horrible. Then your schedule in Week 15 picks up in intensity. Bengals, tough. Lions, tough. Green Bay, not tough. But then the Lions again. So from right now, Week 8 until really Week 14, you got to be dominant. You got to be damn good if you're Minnesota. And they continue to pile up those wins. That's a team that has a shot to make the playoffs. Where 3-4 weeks ago, we would have never thought for a damn second that Minnesota would have had a shot to make the playoffs. Now to the 49ers. Let me be nice here. Don't want to hurt too many of those fan bases' feelings right now, and everyone will start hating me. But the 49ers, that's a bad loss last night. And Brock Purdy shows he still has a way to go. And all you delusional 49ers fans that thought, Brock Purdy was never going to lose a game. Well, now he's lost back-to-back games. The guy's still on track to be a solid quarterback. But when you're without Debo and you're without Trent Williams, you're without some of your weapons, this franchise quarterback of Brock Purdy isn't all that. And it's not a knock to say he's a system quarterback right now. It's just the reality. You just got to manage the game for Brock Purdy. And if Brock Purdy manages the game, that's a team that could beat anybody in the NFL. And last night with the game on the line, he almost threw a pick and then did throw a pick. So there is a ranking in the NFC. The Eagles haven't played their best brands of football yet, and they're still 6-1. The 49ers have now compiled 2 losses. The Eagles, I've been saying this all year, are slightly better than the 49ers. Now, that doesn't mean the 49ers can't walk into South Philadelphia in a few weeks and beat the Eagles. Doesn't mean that. But are they going to beat them twice in a season? I don't think so. And they're on a collision course once again to meet up in the NFC title game. Because you look at the rest of the NFC, Lions, people start to tone down on them a little bit after what happened last week to the Ravens. No one loves whoever's going to win the NFC South. The Seahawks are a good team, but 2 weeks ago they lose, then they bounce back and win, but it wasn't pretty up against the Cardinals. The biggest detriment and the biggest thing that could deter this 49er season, it's the health. And I don't think because Brock Purdy went down last year is why the Eagles won the NFC title game. I think the game would have been closer. I still thought the Eagles were going to win. But we saw how dominant this team was the first weeks of the season. And then the worst thing to happen in the NFL did occur. Injuries. And the last 2 weeks, they've looked like a football team that's not this dominant force. So I don't think any 49er fan should be freaking out after last night because the San Francisco 49ers have had tougher circumstances and worse records to overcome to start a season. They still find a way in the NFC Championship game. But it's a reminder, when you lose some of those pieces, it's tougher to win. You don't need a PhD in football to figure this thing out. But it's tougher to win. And 2 weeks in a row, the 49ers were vulnerable, and they got by teams like the Browns and the Minnesota Vikings. We will take a break on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Robert Horry is going to join us, a 7-time champion, coming up in about 15, 20 minutes from now. But first, when we come on back, Caleb Williams. Should he continue to play for the rest of the season when it looks like USC has no chance of getting to the college football playoff?
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
It is the Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on CBS Sports Radio. So I'm cracking up because I just saw from Bob Nightingale, and anytime Bob Nightingale tweets something, I have to make sure that it's actually something that has been said, because it's death, taxes, and Bob Nightingale always finding a way to get a story wrong. And it's a shame, because I used to think Bob was this really respected MLB reporter, but Twitter has done a disservice to Bob Nightingale because he just messes too many things up. I say the same thing about John Heyman, who, like, John Heyman is someone that's been covering baseball for years. I used to love my conversations with John Heyman. But how many things John gets wrong on Twitter, feels like he just has to say something on Twitter with no information. It drives me bonkers. But Bob Nightingale is saying that the Diamondbacks manager is aware that longtime radio personality and TV host Christopher Mad Dog Russo said he'll retire if the Diamondbacks beat the Phillies in Game 7. And Torey Lovello said, I'm looking forward to that. Like, let's be real about something. There is no way, and there's sometimes you say things on the air and you have to follow through with them. But when it comes to retirement, and if someone says, oh, I'm going to retire if this team doesn't find a way to win up against the Diamondbacks, and the Phillies were up 3-2 after really choking away Game 4, choking away what would have been a 3-1 lead. Then it's 2-2. They had a resilient effort in Game 5. And then in Game 6 last night, you look at the numbers the last 2 years, the Fight-Ins are 12-2 at home in the postseason.
Yeah, I did a Sportsman on it the other day. I didn't think there was a chance Philadelphia is going to drop both these games. Now, they lose game 6, and now we'll see what happens in game 7. But from a pressure standpoint, there's no pressure on the Diamondbacks tonight. The Diamondbacks have 84 wins this season. The Phillies are the team that are at home. They just got to the World Series last year, but I'll be very fascinated to see if Mad Dog Russo actually retires if the Diamondbacks win tonight. Samter, you've been around radio for a long time. Do you think there's any chance the legendary, how are we doing, everybody? Today it's Christopher Mad Dog Russo is going to retire if the Diamondbacks go to the World Series?
I don't think there's any chance, but he really dug himself a deep grave because if you listen to the audio, he says this before game 6.
Yes.
And he goes, I have been against the Diamondbacks all year long, and they proved me wrong again and again and again, but I'm going to do it again. And he's like, maybe they'll win one game, but there's no chance that they're going to win both. And now that they've won one, and like he was effusive, I will retire, I will call it quits. There is no chance. Now, I don't think it's going to happen.
And
he's going to have to come out and do something, but he dug himself a deep, deep hole.
He did, but he kind of didn't, and here's why. Because now I'm remembering the clip that I heard yesterday. He did go on to say, you know what, forget about the retirement. His son, I guess, is now like an assistant coach at some college. He's like, I won't go to Timmy's first basketball game as a coach, and I'll do the show. Like, what punishment is that? You're getting paid to do the show. I get it as a parent. You want to go see your son be an assistant coach or whatever he is at some basketball game, and I think it's like some college. I don't know exactly all the details. But to say that in the beginning and then to backtrack it and go, oh, forget the retirement, I thought that was rather funny. And the other part of this, too, with Christopher Mad Dog Russo, is I don't think his take was crazy. Now, it may end up being wrong, and he even said that there's a chance that the Diamondbacks win Game 6. He wouldn't be surprised if they win Game 6. But the Phillies should win Game 7 tonight. Like, this would be an all-time bad loss in like the history of sports if Philadelphia doesn't win tonight. You're up 3-2 in the series. You're 12-2 at home before last night in the last 2 postseason runs. That ballpark in Philadelphia has been electric all year long. And the last 2 postseasons. That environment with the dancing on my own and all that stuff, it's awesome. You lose tonight, that is brutal. Because I think we all would agree, Samter, Manny, myself, that when the Phillies are up 3-2 and they're going back to Philadelphia, they're going to find a way to win either Game 6 or Game 7. Now they lost Game 6, so that makes Game 7 tonight a big pressured situation for Philadelphia where no one expects anything out of the Arizona Diamondbacks, and they're playing with house money. Anyway, let me get to Caleb Williams here. So yesterday I told you that Lincoln Riley is an overrated head football coach. And that's not me saying he stinks. That's not me saying he's a horrible football coach. But Lincoln Riley gets talked about as if he invented the game of football. And he's the greatest offensive mind of all time. Let me remind everybody, as a college coach, in a short sample size, Lincoln Riley's produced a bunch of Heisman Trophy winners, a bunch of Heisman Trophy finalists. But Lincoln Riley has never won a college football playoff game. Lincoln Riley had the pleasure of coaching at Oklahoma Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, and Jalen Hurts. 2 Heisman Trophy winners and a Heisman Trophy finalist. 0 for 3 in the college football playoff. Now, you go over to USC and you make that move and you become a member of the Trojan and you become a member of the Fighting Trojans. And now you've had Caleb Williams the last 2 years. And Caleb Williams last year, he won a Heisman Trophy. And you lost to Utah twice. Now, if Caleb Williams doesn't get hurt up against Utah, sure, you could argue that USC would have won and USC would have been on their way to the college football playoff. But that didn't happen. So now a year later, with expectations sky high, all the way up here for USC, I looked at USC before the start of the season, and I said to myself, I don't think USC is going to college football playoff. Forget winning the Pac-12, forget going to the playoff. I didn't think it was going to happen because there was a fundamental flaw with USC entering this season. USC doesn't have a defense that's respectable. Lincoln Riley prioritized his friendship and his loyalty to Alex Grinch, the defensive coordinator, over what's in the best interest of his football team and for his student athletes and for his program. So going into this year with the loaded quarterback play in the Pac-12 and with teams having better defenses than USC, I thought to myself, I don't think USC's going to a Pac-12 to win a Pac-12 championship, and I don't think they're going to win a college football playoff game or get to a college football playoff game. But even with how critical I was of USC, I didn't think by mid to late October their season would already be over. And that's where we're at right now. The USC season is already over. You get one loss in college football, it's difficult. You have 2 losses. There's never been a team in the history of the 4-team college football playoff to make the playoff with 2 losses. And you lost to Notre Dame, where your quarterback didn't show up. And this past weekend, you lost to a backup quarterback when USC went up against Utah, and Kyle Whittingham so far owns Lincoln Riley in the Pac-12. Lincoln Riley, who's your daddy? Yeah, it's Kyle Whittingham, who's one of the most underrated coaches in the country and by far and away a top 10 coach in college football. So now you have a lot of pundits and a lot of people that didn't play football and a lot of people that don't understand the camaraderie of a team, that they just look everything from a business standpoint decision, that are saying, Caleb Williams' season's over. He's probably not going to win the Heisman Trophy again. He's definitely not going to a college football playoff. USC has no chance to win the national championship. So Caleb Williams should do a business decision and sit out the rest of the season. Now, if Caleb Williams elected to do that, I would respect it because you're a college athlete at the end of the day. I will never use my platform to put down a college athlete for looking out what's in the best interest of himself and his family. And I know athletes are now paid with NIL and all that stuff, so it changes the game a little bit. But if he wants to go to the NFL, and we know he's going to be the number 1 pick, and he thinks it's in the best interest of his career, I may not like the decision, but I'm not going to crush the kid for it. But with that being said, I don't think that's going to happen whatsoever. Because not that NFL scouts will say, I'm not drafting Caleb Williams because he sat out the final 3-4 games of his college career. He probably won't play in the bowl game. Let's be serious about it. But you skip out the final 3-4 games of your college career, I do think it creates a situation where people say, Michael Penix Jr. had a heck of a season this year. Or Drake May stuck through. I know he didn't have the best of game the other day. And maybe we want to go draft Drake May or someone like that. Ultimately, I do think Caleb Williams is going to finish out this season. But I'm not going to really believe or listen to the people that are saying, he has to sit out. Let the kid make the decision. It's not my decision to make. It's not his decision. It's not your decision to make. It's his decision to make. And I think Caleb Williams is going to be a good teammate. He's going to play up against California, Washington, Oregon, and UCLA. They could still win a Pac-12 championship. They lost to Notre Dame. I know the Pac-12 is so close. They only lost 1 game up against Utah, and that's a Pac-12 team. So the idea of them going to the college football playoff is over, but they still have a chance to win a Pac-12 championship, and I don't expect, regardless of what some people are advocating, for Caleb Williams to miss the final 3-4 games of the season. Bowl game, absolutely, because it's probably going to be a meaningless bowl game or not a big deal. But in terms of the final regular season games, I fully expect Caleb Williams to be there. All righty, let's take a break on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. The NBA season tips off tonight. 7-time NBA champion Robert Horry will join us next.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Now back to the Zach Gelb Show.
Alrighty, we continue. This is Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on CBS Sports Radio. The NBA season tips off tonight. And now joining us right now is the 7-time NBA champion. Robert Horry is here, courtesy of BetOnline. Check out BetOnline for updated NBA title, conference, division, and award odds, plus updated win totals and player stats. Robert, appreciate the time. Thanks so much for doing it. How are you?
Man, I'm blessed. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks so much for coming on. Where do you keep all those 7 championship rings? Just wondering.
Yeah, I have them in a safe deposit box. I can't keep them in the house because, I was moving, and I just put them in a safe deposit box, and I've never taken them out. They've been there for 5-6 years now. I haven't seen them in forever. Hopefully, they're still there.
Gotcha. Let's take Robert off. We're just having trouble on the connection right now. I have trouble hearing Robert Horry, so let's see if we could make sure we could square that away behind the scenes. So we do apologize for that. It's just a bad connection, having trouble hearing Robert, which I thought that's funny. You put those rings in a safety deposit box as well. So let's see if we could connect with Robert Horry in a few moments from now, as the NBA season does tip off tonight, where you do have the Lakers and the Nuggets, and then you do have the Suns and the Warriors. No Bradley Beal tonight for the Phoenix Suns, but both those teams, the expectations are really fascinating when you look at the 4 teams that are in play tonight, because you see Los Angeles Lakers. They were a team that last year no one thought they would get to the Western Conference Finals. Then they did that. And this Lakers group, that it all comes down to the health of Anthony Davis and LeBron James. And if they could be healthy at the end of the season, they have a shot to go far. But is their ceiling now only getting to a Western Conference Final? And then you look at the Denver Nuggets. I don't see how you could stop the Nuggets, because Nikola Jokic, like we had Magic Johnson on, and even Magic Johnson said he didn't have an answer, and he's glad he doesn't have to go up against someone like the Joker. And remember, Jamal Murray came back last year, so now with Jamal Murray, he's going to be, in theory, even better, getting more into game shape. So they won a title last year with that dominant duo. I can't wait to see what the next installment is for that team this year, because I would anticipate them having an opportunity to win another championship during their run together with that duo of Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray. And then for the Suns and Warriors, it's all about fit. It really is about fit with those two teams, because the Phoenix Suns, Durant, Booker, and Beal, that on paper, is a dominant team. But with that being said, there's only one basketball. And also, you got to remember, injuries play a role in this too. Beal's going to be out tonight already with the back injury. Durant's been banged up the last few seasons, unfortunately, and he always misses some time. So that team has been close. That team has been to an NBA Finals. They're going for it once again. DeAndre Ayton is no longer there. But I do give the edge to the Nuggets still in the Western Conference. And for the Warriors, Klay is streaky now. Draymond, you never know what version of Draymond you're going to get. Bringing in CP3, I just don't see the fit. And I know that they thought they had to prioritize Draymond over Jordan Poole. And I know it's tough to move on from a player like Draymond Green with what he's meant to that organization. But with that being said, I thought that the Warriors made a decision this offseason where they're going to reward a player for the past rather than do what's in the best interest of the team for the future. I would have kept Jordan Poole over Draymond Green, but that team thought they had to, even with Bob Myers going to ESPN, Steve Kerr still there. They thought they needed Draymond more so than Jordan Poole. And Jordan Poole's going to put up big numbers this year. But for the Warriors, I would be surprised if they're in the NBA Finals this year, even with how much love and respect that I do have for what they've built there and also the player that Steph Curry is. So that's what's on the docket tonight in the NBA as the season does tip off. Two good matchups to start. I'm kind of surprised we get no Wemby tonight. I would have loved to see Wemby right out of the gate, but that's going to be the biggest storyline of this NBA season. It's going to be Victor Wembanyama and the San Antonio Spurs, where, sure, there's no expectations of the Spurs actually being this good team this year, but Victor Wembanyama is one of one. He is a freak. He is someone that just being in the same room as him, going back to the draft when he sat up on the dais, I've never seen someone like Victor Wembanyama, where he's wearing a jumpsuit and he's 7'6", 7'7", whatever it is, and he looked like a floating head sitting at that dais. He really did. The dude looked like an alien. And I can't wait to see, because we didn't really get to see him play before he got to the NBA outside of highlights, but you've seen what players like LeBron and what players like Steph have said and Giannis Antetokounmpo have said as well. It's just one of those storylines that you monitor where you go, there's such an intrigue factor where you hear so much about Victor Wembanyama where it almost makes it seem that he's not even real. And now we get to see Victor Wembanyama play. All righty, let's try to reconnect here with Robert Horry. Once again, Robert Horry is here courtesy of BetOnline. Check out BetOnline for updated NBA title, conference division, and awards odds, plus updated win totals and player stats. Robert, appreciate you doing this. Hopefully we have a better connection now. Victor Wembanyama, what are the expectations for you this year? Because there's all this talk about him, and we're all trying to figure out how great he could be in year one.
For me, I just think we need to sit back and just watch. Sometimes we put too much on players to do this and do that. And then if they don't live up to our expectations, we label them with a certain label. I just think we need to sit back and enjoy it because we're still a phenom. And after watching him play in a couple of these preseason games, he's doing things that you haven't seen LeBron, Kobe, MJ, Magic, all these guys doing their very first games out. So let's just sit back and wait to see what he can do and just enjoy it because he is a phenom.
But one team we don't have to sit back and wait to see what happens is the Lakers. Is it just as simple as they got to be healthy and they have a chance to win a championship, or are there limitations at this stage for LeBron and Anthony Davis with that duo together out in L.A.?
You think about it, their odds to win it all is 9-1. I take those odds, especially if AD can stay healthy. We know LeBron is going to come through, but I think with the additions they had in Prince and the way AR has got the experience from playing in FIBA, I think they're ready for the grind. It's just going to be if they can stay healthy. And that's always the question when it comes to AD. And we know LeBron, 21 years in, can he stay healthy? Can he keep that same energy? So I think the Lakers have a golden opportunity to knock off Denver, and we're going to see what they can do tonight.
Talking to Robert Horry right now, that Denver team, I asked this to Magic Johnson a few weeks ago. He didn't have an answer, and that's Magic Johnson who guarded everybody. But I asked him how he would try to slow down Nikola Jokic. I think that's the greatest question right now in the sport because even if you limit his scoring, he just dominates on the glass and then dishing out assists.
Yeah, I think if you have someone that's athletic and who can go at him and make him play a little defense, that's what's your best bet. Because if you go back to the last game he played, if Bam was going at him, Bam had 18 points in that first half. He was killing Jokic, and they were winning. All of a sudden, the second half rolls around. He decides not to be aggressive. He only scores 2 points. And they come back, they get the lead, and win the game. So you have to make Jokic play on the offense, on the defensive end. We know offensively what he can do. And if he decides to bring the ball up, attack him, make him move because we all know he's in great shape, but he's not the guy who's just going to play 48 minutes and be that impact for those total 48 minutes like a LeBron, like a AD, and like a Jamal Murray who's on that team.
Robert Horry here with us. You look at Golden State, they acquired CP3. The Suns acquired Bradley Beal as well, even though he won't play tonight. How do you think those two players will fit in on their two teams that are already loaded with talent?
I think with CP3, he's just a baller. I think he can fit in wherever he goes. The question is, how will Steve Kerr play them? Will he go small? Will he go big? If I'm Steve Kerr, I'm bringing Wiggins off the bench and tell him he's going to be sixth man of the year, and you start Clooney and Draymond so you can get a little size. As far as Phoenix, I think the biggest key is to see how they're going to fit in. Is Booker willing to share the ball with not one but two players? Because, with with KD, it's a difference. But now you're adding Bradley Beal, who's been a superstar for the last 5 years, and it's been just him. Can he adjust and play with two other guys that he got to share the ball with? But at the end of the day, they got to play defense, and those two, that team right there is not known for playing defense since the D'Antoni ages.
Robert Horry here with us. So Giannis got a new teammate this offseason, Damian Lillard. A lot of people thought he was going to wind up in Miami. So now Giannis signs the extension the other day with Milwaukee. How about what the Bucks have built? Because to win one championship in Milwaukee is special, but then to get Giannis to stay and add Damian Lillard, man, I can't wait to see what the Bucks do this year because they're my favorite in the East.
The East is going to be tough. My favorite is the Celtics, but I think with Dame and Giannis together, that gives you a strong punch. And if Lopez is able to knock down some threes and Bobby coming out that bench can be aggressive. But I think at the end of the day, still, you need to be able to play some defense, which they got a great defensive team, but they lost a lot of that with Drew. And Drew is over there with the Celtics, and he can, this is the thing about when you play a guy who's been in your system and help you win a championship, now he's on the other team, he knows all of your plays. He knows what your weaknesses are. So it's going to be a little bit different with that. That's why I'm picking Boston, because I think Drew is going to be able to pick apart that Bucks East offense and let everybody know what their weaknesses are.
If you were in that Miami locker room, because we were all convinced, and I think Jimmy Butler was convinced that Damian Lillard was going to wind up there. Now he's not, with him going to Milwaukee. What would your message be as a veteran in that Heat locker room where, hey, they've been to 2 NBA finals, but they needed that extra guy to get them over the hump, in my opinion, to go win a championship?
Oh, they definitely need some scoring power with that. I'm just saying, stay afloat, play hard. And you never know. We keep talking about this situation in Philly with James Harden. James Harden, that's what Miami needs. They need some scoring punch. They need someone that can get hot. Of course, we got Hero who can do that. We got, of course, Jimmy Buckets, but you still need someone else like that. It's just a known bucket getter. And I think if you look around, do something, get James, but they're going to need some firepower, because I think defensively they'll be okay, but firepower is what they need most of.
But here's the thing, though. Is James a fit into Heat culture? Because it seems like James creates his own schedule. And let's be real, Robert Horry, those strip club scene in Miami could be a problem there for James Harden.
But, here's the thing. Every guy, there's someone in this league that everybody respects, and that's Pat Riley. I think if Pat Riley has a sit-down with James and gets him on the page and say, hey, this is what we're going to do and this is what we're able to do, who knows, man? Because there's always somebody out there. I remember when Phil came, he made Shaq get in shape. Shaq got in shape. He wins MVP. You never know. It might be that voice that can make you turn that corner and make you become a different player.
Last thing I'll ask you, Joel Embiid in Philadelphia. I know he's had his own playoff shortcomings. The guy has won a league MVP, though. He's been a dominant player in the sport. With all that being said, though, they haven't been able to find him the Robin if he is Batman. There's a report that the Knicks are interested in maybe trading for him. Leon Rose, the president of the Knicks, was once Joel Embiid's agent. If you're Embiid, do you kind of sit back and go, man, I got to get out of Philly eventually, or just stay there?
Well, you just have to do what a guy up the street did, Antetokounmpo, to say, hey, I need this, and make them go out and get you something. Because, let's wait for them, wait for the season, because we know how good Tyrese Maxey can be. He's really good. They got Kelly Oubre right now. But my whole thing, to me, this whole team is going to depend on how Tobias Harris plays for them. Tobias at one point said he was an all-star. The dude's making $40 million a year, and that's superstar status money. He needs to step up to the plate, become that guy they need, and just be a leader and not talk about it, but be about it. Because when you watch him play, he has so much talent, but he has to put it on the court and has to put it on display.
He's Robert Horry. He's here courtesy of BetOnline. Check out BetOnline for updated NBA title, conference division, and awards odds, plus updated win totals and player stats. Robert, appreciate you doing this. Sorry for some of the connection issues. We appreciate the time.
Man, my pleasure.
There you go. Robert Horry joining us right here on CBS Sports Radio. Little bit surprised that he said the Heat should go out there and acquire James Harden. Now, if one person can get it done in terms of maybe making a player be a little bit different than they've been in the past, it is Pat Riley, and I understand what he's saying with that understanding, but I don't think anyone's getting to James Harden. James Harden, we've seen this playbook too many times. He's a really, really good player. He'll be a Hall of Famer. At times, he's an elite player. But at this point of his career, regardless of what his agent says, regardless of what people close to him says, he is more concerned about the personal life, the off-the-court life, the nightlife. And if that's the way you live your life, I'm not going to sit here and say it's a bad decision. If you're getting paid all that straight cash and all that moolah, and you get to go party the world and enjoy some good food and go enjoy a little strip club action, don't be my guest if that's a life that you want to live. But you've heard it now from multiple coaches and multiple stops.
James, you got to show up a little bit more. You got to have a little bit more of a want to on the basketball court. And I've seen this story in this playbook too many times where the James Harden playbook is at times he looks great now. At times he looks like he'll be a stud. There'll even be moments like last year up against the Celtics where he'll take over a playoff game early. But as the series goes on, games 5, game 6, game 7, he's out of shape. And he already put in all the effort to give you a good game 1 or give you a good game 3 as well. So I don't think the fit, I understand the scoring need in Miami, but I don't think the fit with who the person is of James Harden would make any sense in the Miami Heat. And Jimmy Butler and him, I would pay to see those fights because Jimmy is the complete antithesis of James Harden. Jimmy is like, I got to sweat. I got to go crazy. I got to scratch and claw to get everything. And that's like the certain standard of Jimmy Butler. James Harden's like, yeah, I'll show up when I show up. I'll be at the strip club. I'll be at 11. I'll be having fun in Miami. And then I'll make my schedule when I'm actually going to show up and focus on basketball. All righty, we'll take a break. We'll come on back. We will do a little news brief, update you on some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio. But first up, with the latest CBS Sports Radio update, here is the Ackman, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
Well, the Phillies host the Diamondbacks, who forced tonight's deciding game with a win last night. So it is Game 7 of the National League Championship Series. Philly won the first 2 games easily, but has since dropped 3 of 4. Now it all comes down to tonight. Kyle Schwarber has been a part of deciding games in his career and said anything goes.
It's going to be all hands on deck. It's going to be fight, scratch, claw, do whatever you can to score a run, find a way to get outs, find a way to move up an extra 90 feet, anything that you can.
Ranger Suarez will start against Brandon Pfaadt, and the winner will face Texas in the World Series. The Giants reportedly set to name Padres manager Bob Melvin to fill their vacancy at the position. Denver opens its title defense against the Lakers tonight. After sweeping LA in the conference finals last year, the world champs will raise their banner prior to tonight's tip-off and also get their championship rings. The other part of the doubleheader features the Suns, busy in the offseason, taking on the Warriors in San Francisco. But Draymond Green will miss the season opener with an ankle injury, and the Rams have released kicker Brett Maher after he missed 3 field goals last week. I'm Rich Ackerman.
Jim Rome here, coming up Wednesday in the Jungle, a conversation with Falcons defensive end Calais Campbell. See you Wednesday, 12 noon Eastern and 9 Pacific.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio.
Sean Payton may be the biggest buffoon in the NFL right now. Because Sean Payton this offseason, he went after Nathaniel Hackett. And he said Nathaniel Hackett did one of the worst coaching jobs in the history of the league. When you say that, it's a must-win when you go up against Nathaniel Hackett's offense. The Jets won the game up against the Denver Broncos, and that is as bad of a look as humanly possible for Sean Payton.
This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
And this portion of the show is brought to you by Wesley Financial. Stuck in a timeshare and want out? Contact Wesley Financial Group now and get a free timeshare exit information kit at wesleyfinancialgroup.com. Let's get to a news brief.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
So Sean Payton was 1-5 and then had a lead up against the Broncos. Looked like they were going to choke it away, and then they won the game by 2 points, 19-17 this weekend over the Green Bay Packers. So he's become an insufferable quote. I think a lot of people used to like Sean, and now it's like, ever since he's gone to Denver, I could live without him. But I just see the slug line here, and it says, Sean is not happy despite the win. Now, I've not heard this audio yet, and I didn't want to listen to it before we played it on the air. But, like, my blood pressure is going through the roof
that this guy is now not happy because his team won a game, and I'm assuming it's because they didn't love how sloppy of a game it is. Like, when you were 1-5 before this victory to get you to 2-5, just take the wins or the win, how they come. Here is Sean Payton.
Sometimes it's hard to be pleased or not upset. You know, you want to play your perfect game, and that was a good win for us. And yet I'm driving home last night, you know, heading to get sushi. I don't like sushi. Finding myself like circling around the parking lot, like, all right, why can't I be happy? Well, you're searching for that perfect game.
All right, I'm actually more annoyed now. I'm actually getting sushi tonight. But Samter, why is he driving home from getting sushi if he doesn't like sushi? Is that his way of saying the family wanted sushi, so he had to go get the sushi, and he hates sushi?
That was the only thing that could come into my own mind, other than the fact that he wanted to punish himself for not having a perfect game. So it was like, I hate sushi, so you deserve to eat sushi because you did not have a perfect game. Either way, it sounds ridiculous.
Yeah, and who doesn't like sushi? Like, I'm allergic to avocado, so people think I don't like sushi. I just get sushi without avocado. But, like, I don't know. Sushi's pretty enjoyable.
And why did we need to know that he was getting sushi and doesn't like sushi? Can't you just talk about how you were not satisfied with the win?
Put it this way. Sean should have never left TV. The more and more I hear this guy speak, the more and more miserable he sounds. And it's very tough, even though he had to build up the Saints, but they built it up really quickly. And no one really, like, knew who Sean Payton was at a national standpoint. Now everyone knows who he is from a national perspective. And there's a certain standard we expect out of him. And he knows this Broncos team stinks. But he just took a job to take a job. And that's when you end up making a bad decision. He could have waited, and I would have thought got a better job. The jobs weren't wonderful last offseason. But he thought he had to go to Denver because that was the only thing that was available for him. He should have just stayed at Fox, done another year of TV, maybe not do the honey-do list around the house to get sushi for everybody else, and you wouldn't be sitting there with a 2-5 record with really no optimism in Denver. I'm getting a bougie sushi meal tonight, by the way. I'm going to Nobu. Look at Manny Rodriguez. He was like, wow, I didn't know Gelb went to Nobu.
Wow.
You were impressed with that.
I wish I had your life.
Oh, I would say that you're invited, but you're not. So
appreciate the invite.
Now, I would invite you one day to Nobu. I just got certain plans tonight, certain obligations tonight. Let's go to Ron Rivera. Ron Rivera was asked if he's still committed to Sam Howell as his quarterback.
What you're saying about Sam, the importance of him and how that's a big focus, obviously. Does that mean you're committed to playing him, starting him the rest of the season, barring the unforeseen?
Well, I will tell you this. I'm committed to him, and we'll see how things go, Ben. But, you know, I can't predict the future, and the only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to focus in on one game at a time.
That was like if they asked me, are you committed to Michael Samter as your producer? And I go, yeah, I'm committed to him, but I'm really only focused one game at a time. Like, Samter, if you heard that, you'd be worried about your job status, right?
I'm already worried about my job status now that you made this hypothetical. I was totally fine, and now I'm wondering, like, what's Zach thinking behind closed doors?
But that's a bad answer by Ron Rivera. Just say he's our quarterback, and that's it.
Because here's the thing, Ron Rivera has this tendency of just putting his foot in his mouth, whether it's with Eric Bieniemy, or with the team name, Carson Wentz, a variety of things that he's just gotten himself into trouble where there would have been literally zero discussion about it whatsoever had he not said what he said. If you just want to say, yeah, we're committed to Sam Howell, leave it at that, and nobody thinks or talks about it at all. The fact that you said, I can't predict the future, anything can happen, now we're all saying, oh, well, there's a controversy at the quarterback in Washington. He just doesn't know when to not say what he doesn't need to say.
Oh, you're 100% right. And Jacoby Brissett is a solid player. Like, he could go win games. But what Ron Rivera doesn't realize, and I feel bad for him, because you don't think this way when you're in the moment, but there's very little Ron Rivera could do this year to make sure that he's back at this team's coach next year. You just brought in a new owner. Yeah, and he was like the main point person the last few years in the final few years of Daniel Snyder owning an NFL franchise, Ron Rivera I'm talking about. But Josh Harris is coming in, and he's going to be cleaning house because that house had a lot of problems in it. I'm not saying Ron was a problem, but you're going to go make a big splash, whether it's with a new GM or a new coach, And Ron Rivera, you've been with the Commanders last 3-4 years. The highlight is what? Being 7-9 and winning the NFC East? You haven't won enough games. Here is Deion Sanders, Coach Prime. I love Coach Prime. Here is him commenting on this whole Michigan scandal that a lot of people are making it a bigger deal than what it needs to be.
Everyone's trying to get an edge. I mean, everyone's trying to get whatever edge they can. You could have someone's whole game plan. They could mail it to you. You still got to stop it. So in football, it's not as pronounced as baseball. If I know a curveball is coming, I got you. With football, I don't give a darn if you know a sweep is coming. You still got to stop it.
I do find this funny that a lot of people that coach and play football haven't been outraged to this whole Michigan story. But then fans, like Penn State fans and Ohio State fans, they're outraged to this. Let me be clear. Michigan did something wrong. Michigan broke the rules if the allegations are true that you were using devices, a camera to record people, and then having this guy, a Marine, go and fly to these games and have people with tickets go to the games and record the sidelines. You broke the rules. But let's not make this out to be as if we need to lock up the Michigan program and throw away the key. There's been a lot worse things done before in college football. There needs to be a punishment. But people today are acting as if this is the worst thing that has ever occurred in the NCAA. And for any Tom, Dick, and Harry today, any dweeb person that's we need to make sure that Michigan isn't eligible for a bowl game this year, or we need to make sure that Michigan can't go to the Big Ten championship game. The NCAA moves as slow as anybody could humanly function. They don't operate that quickly. Let's go to Matt Rule, the head coach of Nebraska, on the sign stealing scandal. Remember, Michigan did play Nebraska this year. I was actually at that game in Go Big Red country.
Sign stealing happens every game. There's nothing wrong with teams over there looking over trying to steal our signs. There's nothing wrong with us trying to look at their signs. We could get rid of all the stupid signs on the sidelines. We could get pictures of, rock stars and all that stuff. And we could just play football. But that's sign stealing. I would not carry that over to going and filming someone else's practices or something like that, or filming someone else's games. That's completely something different. Sports need rules to keep competitive balance. And when someone does something against the rules, we say, well, should that really even be a rule? And it is the rule. We don't get 5 downs. If that is happening somewhere, it's completely, completely wrong.
I can't disagree with what Matt Rule just said. It's similar to what I said. Something happened. There needs to be a punishment. I don't think it needs to be the end of the world. But Matt brought up a good point, too, in another clip. And he talked about there with getting the signs away, how they don't have the headset communication with the quarterbacks now, or a linebacker on the field, where they have that in high school, they have it in the NFL. That's stupid. You could have all the hand signs you want. The hand signs mean nothing if you just have a coach whispering into the quarterback's ear, all right, we're going to run this play, blah, 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 we're going to do this, blah, 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 blah. It means nothing. Why is the NCAA not doing that? Because of money? Come on. It's a joke. Here is LeBron James's new Beats by Dre commercial. Listen up.
Put Akron on the map again. Skip the chatter and take the high road and watch as they follow you again. Tell them you're not done till you play with your son. Then do that again. Show them why you're nothing to be played with. The GOAT. Show them why you're the king again.
So that is LeBron James's wife, Savannah, right? Is her name? She's now saying that she wants him to be teammates with the other son as well, Bryce.
So in the commercial, obviously it's a little bit more visual, but when you hear it, they basically are showing Bronny say that you want to play with your one son, and then they show a picture
who's
of,
at USC now.
Right. Bryce, who's 16, and say, and do it again.
Yeah,
so basically she's saying not only are you going to try to stay around for Bronny, but now you got to stay around for your 16-year-old son who's 3 years away from the NBA, 4 years away, depending on if they change the rules for the one and done. So, maybe LeBron stays for another 4 years.
Don't get me wrong. LeBron is a freak. He is a human freak. He's crazy what he's been able to do. But ever since he's got to LA, he's been injured. His body is slowing down, even though he plays still at this ridiculous level that's still awesome to watch. Bronny, sure. Bryce, no shot. He'll be retired by then. Maybe he's coaching. Maybe he's owning the team. That's a possibility, but not playing alongside both his sons. It'd be cool, though. Bruce Bochy on potentially winning his 4th World Series. The Rangers punched their ticket in his first year with the Rangers as their manager.
I'll be honest. It's not. I don't think about me. I'm riding their backs. Trust me. It's unreal that I'm here. To be honest, I mean, I was sitting at the house for 3 years, and to think here I am going to the World Series. Yeah, that's special.
It's amazing with his departure from the Giants after winning 3 World Series there, and also when he's with the Padres back in '98, going to a World Series, how he was out of the game for this long. And the Rangers come calling. He goes there. First year, they're now 4 wins away from winning a World Series. That piece of metal Commissioner's Trophy that Rob Manfred always talks about. Here is Bryce Harper on going to a Game 7 tonight between the Phillies and the Diamondbacks in South Philadelphia.
We're at home. I mean, it's a great place to be. I mean, of course, we wanted to get the job done tonight. Weren't able to do that, but all about, tomorrow's all about going 1-0.
So we always talk in Philadelphia how they're greasing the polls already in terms of celebrating and all the craziness that will go on. What happens tonight in Philadelphia if they lose? After being 12-2 at home in the last 2 postseasons, now 12-3, and they drop 6 and 7. That would be something. I do think Philadelphia wins tonight, but all the pressure. Philly needs like a few runs early because that's going to be a loud building, but all the pressure's on Philadelphia. And one more, finally. Here is Steve Sarkisian on if it's going to be Malik Murphy or Arch Manning this week as QB with Quinn Ewers out.
Arch and Malik will both get a ton of reps. If the game was being played today, Malik would start the game. And again, Arch will be ready to go. And like I said before, I've had a ton of confidence in Arch.
Oh, that's must watch. Saturday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern against BYU. You got to tune into that because it's going to be Malik Murphy. But the moment he makes a mistake and that game is in front of the Longhorn fans, you know they're going to be chanting for Arch Manning. And by the way, Manny brings up a good point. That's the first ever Game 7 in Phillies franchise history. That's kind of crazy, Manny.
141-year-old franchise, first Game 7. It's mind-blowing.
That is astonishing. At first, when I read that earlier today, I thought it said first, like, NLCS Game 7. And I'm like, oh, okay. But when it's first Game 7 in franchise history, that is wild. So we'll see what happens tonight. It's going to be fun either way to talk about it tomorrow.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Then away we go, hour number 3 of our radio program. That's right, it is a Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on CBS Sports Radio. Time to get to a little overreaction, proper reaction with Week 7 of the NFL season coming to a close last night as the San Francisco 49ers go down in back-to-back weeks. Last week it was the Cleveland Browns, and this week it was at the hands of the Minnesota Vikings. Manny Rodriguez, hit it!
Another NFL week is complete, which means it's another week to freak out about your favorite team. Which takes are truly crazy.
But sometimes a game can be so bad, it's almost good. You know what I'm saying? No.
And which are so crazy, they might be right.
He's 6'5", he's 245 pounds. He's probably a Popeye's biscuit away from being a tight end.
Zach lets you know in this week's edition of Overreaction or Proper Reaction.
All right, Sam, so what do we got cooking, Big Mike CBS?
Big Mike CBS, well, we talked a little about this yesterday. The Ravens crushed the Lions 38-6, thanks to 4 total touchdowns from Lamar Jackson. Now, Baltimore's offense is top 10 in both yards and points, but the defense is rolling, second in yards allowed and leading the NFL in points allowed per game. So overreaction, proper reaction, the Ravens are a top 3 team in the NFL right now.
Right now, today, that is a proper reaction. I won't go into too much further details because I don't want to ruin Take 5 Wednesday tomorrow. I want to give you my top 5 teams in the NFL, but I'll give you a little pig in the blanket for that for Manana's show, I do have the Baltimore Ravens as a top 3 team in the NFL as we currently sit. A lot of teams were in front of the Baltimore Ravens, but the Ravens kept on winning, and all those other teams kept on losing. Lamar plays the way that he played on Sunday. There's not many teams that could beat them because that defense is legit. The offense, they don't have a ton of weapons that you're like ooh and ah about. But when Lamar Jackson looks like he's about to get sacked, then runs around and finds a way to go to the right sideline, stops on a dime, then throws the ball to Nelson Aguilar, and Nelson Aguilar catches the football with Mark Andrews as well. And if some of these receivers could break out, we'll see what happens with Zay Flowers. Man, Lamar, there's not a lot of individuals that could win in the NFL because you need a team sport and you need a group of great guys. But Lamar has that ability because of his speed and the way that he extends plays, and just defenders never know if he's going to throw the ball or run the ball. He has the ability to just take over a game, and that offense isn't even at the level that it should be yet because you're implementing a new offensive coordinator, and there's an identity problem with the Ravens. Like, they don't know if they want to run the ball. They don't know if they want to throw the ball. So that's just a team that has so much potential. I hate the word potential because it means it hasn't done it yet. But when this team's sitting there at 5-2, and I'm talking about potential, yeah, buying on the Ravens.
I'm curious. I don't want to ruin Take 5 Wednesday, but I'm curious who the 3 teams are and which of the main teams you've kicked out of that top 3.
I think it's fairly obvious. If you listen to this show,
yes,
the 2 teams that I've given the benefit of the doubt to over and over and over again will be joining the Ravens in the top 3.
Now,
but don't put your hand in the cookie jar any more than that, all right?
I don't want to spoil what's going to happen tomorrow, so we'll learn more about it. But I think I have an idea.
Growing up, I may have had a few too many cookies. So my parents got a cookie jar, and it ended up being a frog, and you would open it, and it would go, ribbit, ribbit, ribbit. So there was a way where I got like slick at this. You could open up the cookie jar, and if you quickly put your thumb underneath the, like there was a button there, it would cancel out or mute out the ribbit. But until I realized that, I got yelled at a bunch of times when my hand was in the cookie jar.
This is good information for my daughter, so I'm going to try this out. Thank you.
But I'll put it this way, though, and I'm going to be careful here. This is a positive comment. I know you got to look very nervous there. I'm going to assume that your daughter will be a lot more intelligent than I ever was. So
I don't think that's a very difficult assumption, but I'm gonna hope that that's correct.
You may need a few extra tricks up your sleeve. That's all I'm going to say.
All right, well, 2 years ago, the AFC West was all the rage, with some predicting all 4 teams would make a push for the playoffs. However, after a subpar 2022, this year has been even worse, and the West is the only AFC division with 3 teams under 500. It's crazy.
That's nasty.
Overreaction, proper reaction. The AFC West is actually the worst division in the AFC.
So when I just heard you say that, at first I want to be like, what are you, crazy? It's still the AFC South. That's the worst division. But the more and more you think about it, the Chiefs are so top-heavy. The Chargers have an incompetent coach in Brandon Staley. They have a lot of talent, but their coach stinks. The Broncos, horrible. The Raiders, dysfunctional. So then you look at the AFC South, yes, the Chiefs are better than the Jaguars, but the Jaguars are no slouch. And teams like the Texans and the Colts have been competitive. They've been decent, the Texans and the Colts. Tennessee stinks. They're a bad football team. So since the Texans and the Colts have been I actually give the edge to the AFC South over the AFC West. So that is a proper reaction when you say the AFC West is actually the worst division in the AFC. And 2-3 years ago, it's the greatest division of all time. All 4 teams are going to make the playoffs. Been terrible.
You know, when I was writing the question, I was kicking myself, and then I started thinking about it. I'm like, you know what? Maybe this could be real.
You're onto something there, Samter.
Now, after 2 straight wins, the Vikings sit at 3-4, just a half game back of a playoff spot in the NFC. Over the next 7 games, Minnesota plays only 1 team with the winning record. They have a combined record of 19-28 currently, so a lot of bad teams in there. So overreaction, proper reaction. The Vikings should be buyers at the deadline and make one last run with Kirk Cousins.
That's an overreaction because I don't think there's anything that they could do the rest of the way that makes me say, okay, they're a legitimate Super Bowl contender. So I think even though they may not be taking as far of a step back as we thought a few weeks ago, I would just let the season play out with the roster that you have. I go overreaction when you say the Vikings should be buyers to the deadline and make one last run with, you like that, Kirk Cousins, who could be back next year as the Vikings quarterback.
So moving on, that was a very quick answer. The Saints gave Derek Carr a 4-year, $150 million contract, but after starting 3-2, they have dropped 2 straight and sit at 3-4. Carr has thrown just 6 touchdowns in 7 games, but the team is stuck with him through the 2025 season. So they got this year, next year, and another year, and could potentially get out around 2026, even with some dead cap money that they'd have to deal with. So overreaction, proper reaction. The Saints should still draft a quarterback in the first round.
So the Saints are not a good team, but I don't think they're going to be bad enough where they're picking in the top 10. So with that being said, and they could probably get out of that deal after 2024 when the dead cap goes down, because in 2025 it's like 17 or 18 million in dead cap. That's serviceable. You could get out of that. Teams have done a lot worse. But since the Saints aren't going to be an ideal draft position, I don't think you just take a quarterback to take a quarterback. You got to fall in love with the quarterback to take a quarterback, especially in the first round. So you say to me the Saints should draft a QB in the first round. I think that's an overreaction because I don't believe they're going to be in a draft position where they're in the top 10 and they have a chance to go get a Michael Penix Jr., Drake May, Caleb Williams. If Shedeur Sanders says, Pops, I'm going to the pros, find someone else at Colorado. I just don't know if their guy's going to be there. And when you just take a quarterback to take a quarterback, that's when you see like a Johnny Manziel or Brandon Weeden, things like that play on out. And you're like, we got Paxton Lynch. Yeah.
Although Aaron Rodgers was there at that point as well.
Okay, but if someone falls like that could have been the number 1 overall pick. That's a different conversation. Caleb Williams and Drake May aren't falling past the first 3 picks, and the Saints won't be in the first 3 picks.
Certainly true, but we have no idea where Shedeur Sanders could be. There's a ton of guys coming out that seem to be potential franchise caliber quarterbacks.
Are we going to dress up for Halloween, by the way?
We as a show, or we as in like the collective we?
We as a show. Like, I know you are going to dress up for Halloween because you have a 1-year-old, so you're going to want to be, right? That's our first Halloween or second?
First
Halloween. So you're going to dress up.
Dressing up. I don't know if I guess I'll dress up with her.
Oh, come on. I've met your wife once. I know your wife is going to get you a costume, going to get the kid the costume. The 3 of you are going to be like, I don't know what you're going to dress up as, but you guys are going to dress up as something.
It's possible.
Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, maybe?
I'm thinking more about her costume as opposed to my costume.
Manny, you got that what I just said, right?
I understood it.
Okay. But anyway, I think you guys will dress up something. But I was saying...
What are you going to dress up as?
I mean as a show. I thought of something today.
Okay.
I may reveal it on actual Halloween on the show, but it is something sports related. But I think you should dress up as something. As long as Stu gets over the Raiders flu, he'll be black. And he should dress up as something. I think we should all dress up on Halloween. I think it's good.
All right, we'll give it a try. We'll see what I can pull together from my closet.
I think there's a lot. I think you have a lot of costumes.
I used to. I've gotten older and I've gotten more mature, which is surprising to say.
You know, the Samters are probably up to some sneaky things in that household. They probably have some costumes, some good role-play costumes that you could maybe bring in and make a Halloween costume.
All right, so I'm going to move on to number 5.
Is that an overreaction or a proper reaction?
Everyone was calling for Mac Jones to be benched, but Jones had a resurgent game, tossing 2 touchdowns and no picks in that stunning 29-25 win over the Bills. So overreaction, proper reaction, you still have faith that Mac Jones can be a franchise starting quarterback.
In New England?
Sure.
That's a no for me, dog. That's an overreaction. The Mac Jones era in New England is over. They'll be drafting a quarterback, you would think, this year. And then Bill needs to realize with this new contract, you got to actually go get some talent for that young quarterback, which they failed to do during Mac Jones's 3 years as the quarterback of the New England Patriots. Next question.
Okay, that was very quick. Last one.
Why are you surprised there? I know I'm bloviating a lot of times where I go on and on and on and on, but it's a quick answer right there.
No, listen, I like when you go quick. That sounded really bad. I'm going to move on to the next one. The Bears
That's not what she says.
That is definitely not what she says. The Bears won their second game of the season, upping Matt Eberflus's record to a paltry 5-19 in 2 years at the helm in Chicago. So overreaction, proper reaction. Matt Eberflus still has a chance to save his job in Chicago.
No, he does not. That is an overreaction, and here's why. The Bears are going to have 2 excellent picks. They have their own picks, their own first-round pick because of how bad they are, and then they also have the Carolinas pick, the Carolina Panthers, because they made that trade with Bryce Young in the draft where the Bears moved down to 8 and the Panthers moved up to 1, and the Panthers are the worst team in the NFL. So there is no doubt about it that they're going to clean house this year, get rid of Ryan Poles. You know, Poles maybe could keep his job, but I don't think that's a good idea. But they're definitely going to get rid of Eberflus, and you're going to bring in a new coach, maybe Jim Harbaugh, and you are going to use those 2 picks to try to finally change the direction of your franchise. I would be shocked, stunned, if Matt Eberflus still has a chance to save his job. So I would go overreaction. And Samter, I'm actually going to throw you a bonus overreaction, proper reaction question here. And I'm a little skeptical to do this. But I see some comments in the chat, and I need to see if this is an overreaction or the proper reaction. Do you have any issues with moist pork? People are saying I need to make these moist pork references in the chat. Is there overreaction, proper reaction? Is there a beef between Michael Samter and moist pork?
No, there's not a beef between me and him or her as a human being.
Moist pork is a guy.
Okay.
Yeah. I meant moist pork.
Stop saying it. I hate that word. I hate
moist
that
pork?
word. Pork is fun. Say pork all you want.
Moist?
Oh,
Moist?
hate it. Oh, my God. It's terrible. It's disgusting. Who says that word?
So you're not a fan of moist pork?
Oh, come on now.
Moist pork is like one of the nicest human beings I've ever met.
I don't even know who Moist Pork is.
He's
I don't
a very
know
nice
who the
guy.
person. I know nothing about the human being who runs the account. I hate the name. I hate the word. I hate the sound of it.
Moist.
I hate everything about that. Oh, enough of you. Stop. You're disgusting.
Doesn't sound right when I say moist and then Samter goes, oh, yeah. It doesn't sound right. Jeez.
So what do you say to something that's like not too wet but still yet somewhat dry?
Damp.
That's boring.
Yeah.
Damn pork.
Moist.
Oh, enough.
All right. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Maybe we should invite Moist Pork to the studios to have a little powwow with Samter. I think you guys would get along.
I'm sure he's
Very
a wonderful
nice guy.
person. I have no issue with him
brought me some
as a
beers.
person. I have no issue about any of the Weedos, the Purple Drankers, the Gelbers, the Gelbinos, the Zach Attackers. I got no issues
Zach
with
Pack.
any of them. The Zach Pack, no issues. There's just a word that I can't say, listen to, hear, read, or anything else, and this guy just loves to push it in my face.
All righty. Samter Moist Pork. Maybe we should call you Moist Mike.
That's not going to go well.
CBS Sports Radio.
That's not going to go well.
All righty. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. We will take a break. When we come on back, we will chat it up with longtime MLB closer, now a part of the MLB Network. Brad Lidge will join us, World Series champion in Philadelphia. Phillies' first ever Game 7 tonight in their franchise's history. And also the Rangers are dancing on their own, if you want to say, off to the World Series right now, where they will have some company tonight after we see who wins between the Diamondbacks and the Fightins. Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Living in this big blue world with my head up in outer space. I know I'll be A-O-A-OK. I know I'll be A-O-A-OK. When I see trouble come my way, I'll be making lemonade.
He's back. Here's Zach Gelb.
All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. We're going to preview a little Game 7 of the NLCS tonight. Once again, disclaimer, the two best words in sports are not Game 7. It's World Champions. Those are the best two words in sports. And last night, the Texas Rangers did punch their ticket to the Fall Classic with Bruce Bochy as the manager of that team in year one. And now he's going off to another World Series. We know he's won 4 with the won 3 with the San Francisco Giants, and then got to another with the San Diego Padres. So the Texas Rangers await, and here we are with the Game 7 tonight in South Philadelphia at Citizens Bank Park between the Phillies and the Diamondbacks. And it's crazy that the Diamondbacks are here. They were hot early in the season, then they cooled off, then they found a way in the postseason, and they found their way into a Game 7 of the NLCS where all the pressure is on Philadelphia. Philadelphia drops one last night. We know how great Philadelphia has been at home, 12-3 during their last 2 postseason runs in South Philadelphia. Now joining us is a man that knows a thing or two about pitching big games in Philadelphia and coming out of that bullpen. He, of course, is from MLB Network Radio, longtime MLB closer, Brad Lidge. Brad, appreciate the time. How you been, my friend?
I've been good, Zach. I've been good, but I never like stressing Game 7, so I guess I could be better had the Phillies wrapped it up last night, but that's okay. I'm still feeling good, still feeling confident. We'll see what happens.
Well, it's alarming to me that the Phillies have never played in a Game 7 before in franchise history. Like, when I read that earlier today, I go, that can't be true, but that's what the stat says.
That is surprising, actually. I was not aware of that, and I don't know. What does it mean? I don't think it means much. It's just another game, but it's another game with everything on the line. Phillies have faced elimination before and come out pretty good, I would have to imagine, most of the time. So it's an elimination game, and I guess that's the odd thing, right, is because how did we get here to an elimination game with this team? But nonetheless, here we are. But it is crazy to hear that they have not had a Game 7. Well, this is a great way to start. The first time you have a Game 7, you win. Perfect.
Yeah, you are undefeated right now, so you could use that stat in your advantage. Here's the thing, though. We know all the pressure is on Philadelphia tonight. Everyone expects the Phillies to win. They have been sensational last 2 years at home. All right, they lose last night. No big deal. You got another chance to go at it tonight. What do you think is going on in the Diamondbacks locker room, though? Because I know you could use the underdog card only so far, but here you are, 1 win away, and you go to the World Series. Does that play a factor in this tonight where everyone thinks Philadelphia is going to win?
I think playing a factor tonight is above and beyond anything else, is that they won at Citizens Bank last night. They know they can do it. The seal's been broken, and I think for them, coming out and doing what they did last night gives them a lot of confidence, and frankly, it should. I mean, they were able to post on Aaron Nola, who had been dominating, and that's a team that I think you could have said they're going to throw in the towel because they're back at Citizens Bank, but we heard Torey Lovello's comments. He's a great manager, and he said we didn't come all this way to get our asses kicked, and you know what? I think he put the money where his mouth is. So good for them in Game 6. I think what that does, though, certainly, I mean, it's going to give them a ton of confidence going into tonight, that they feel that they can, they hadn't scored off Nola before, but now they do. And so, they didn't really score off Ranger Suarez before, but now they think maybe we can, because look what we just did against Aaron Nola. So I think the bottom line is that they're going to be playing with confidence, and it's a scary situation in Game 7. Obviously, the Phillies are still going to have confidence, and by all intents and purposes, they should absolutely still be considered the favorites to win this game. And I think they will. I believe they will. But it is scary that it's a Game 7, and it's against a team that won last night doing some things they had not done yet in the series.
Brad Lidge here with us. Do you see any similarities between this team and your team back in 2008 that won the World Series for the Fightins?
Well, I think the biggest similarity is the comfort level at home and how comfortable the offense is. I know, last night notwithstanding, but how comfortable the offense is at home in the postseason, when everything is on the line, when the fans are on their feet. You can see that this Phillies team is using that extra adrenaline. They're using all that to create a higher level of play. And, that's something we did, back in 08 where the fans literally took us to another level, took us to a higher level of play. And that's what we're seeing, I think, this year with this team. So there's a lot of similarities in that. Obviously, the offense is fantastic. It was for us as well. I think the stuff in the bullpen is actually better than what we had.
Wow.
We had some guys that were grinders, and we had some guys that got the job done and knew how to pitch really well. But, the stuff is incredible. The arms coming out of the bullpen right now. Starting pitching, to be honest, is probably, we had Hamels at the top, and, we had the guys come in after him. I actually think the starting pitching is probably even better for the Phillies right now with that 1-2 punch. And as I mentioned, Ranger Suarez. And it's just been a really deep rotation all year. So, there's a lot of ways the team reminds me of our squad in 08, but the talent level is certainly, about as good as it's ever been, I think, in Philly right now. So it's an exciting team to watch. But I think that The biggest similarity is that when the crowd is fired up, the Phillies are playing at a higher level than we have seen, and that probably even some people thought they'd be capable of in the postseason.
And that's why I really think the first 3 innings tonight are so important. Not that the game is over there, but if you get a few home runs by like a Schwarber or Harper or Castellanos, Real Muto, whoever it is, and that team gets up 3-4-0 early at home, that crowd just going to be electric.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, you get the crowd into this game early, and I think and with all due respect to Fott, he's a rookie. He's still going through the rookie, thing. And I think for me, like, people could say, well, he's going to be confident coming off that last start, but I don't know. Like, you face a team twice in a row, it's kind of the best start of your career, and there's a lot of like exhaling that comes after that, and probably didn't figure he'd be thrown against the Phillies again. And now yet here he is having to do the same thing again. That takes a lot of energy, a lot of focus. And it's a pretty rare rookie that could actually navigate through this again tonight. I think the advantage swings back in favor of the Phillies for sure. And if the crowd gets going, like he didn't throw that game against the Phillies at Citizens Bank. He did it in Arizona. If he gives up a first inning tater to Schwarber or Bryce or whoever it's going to be, and the fans get going, I think it's going to be all downhill for the Phillies. So it really is. I'm with you. It's super important to score first in this game and to keep the fans going nuts all day.
Talking to Brad Lidge right now. Zach Gelb here with you on CBS Sports Radio. Craig Kimbrell, he struggled. We know that. I know you were perfect in 2008, but you've had moments where you've struggled in your career as well. What advice, what do you kind of expect if you see Kimbrell in the game tonight from him?
Well, it's tricky if you're Kimbrell, right? Because, at this point, it's not likely that he's going to be in the save situation or the super high leverage situation. And so, for him right now, it's a matter of going out there and getting yourself dialed in for hopefully the World Series. But it is, two things really, I guess, when you're struggling and you don't have that confidence, it's never a good time to have to figure that out on the fly in the game 7 of the NLCS. But, he's had an incredible career, borderline Hall of Famer, for sure. And I think probably what we're seeing is, Craig Kimbrell at about 90% of what he used to be, and he's got to figure out how to pitch a little bit better now. I mean, it's easier said than done, right? I know the last year of my career, I couldn't stitch that together. So, it's not like you can all of a sudden come up with a changeup out of the middle of nowhere. He's been a fastball, curveball guy his entire career. The velocity isn't quite what it used to be. The carry on his fastball isn't quite what it used to be. The break on the curveball is still good, but the spin rate isn't quite as high as it used to be. So he's trying to figure out and learn how to pitch on the fly. And I think that's why you see him giving up more free passes, is that he's used to guys swinging at that curveball down. And now they don't have to respect his fastball quite as much, so they can lay off it. More free passes leads to trouble. So it's a tough place to be in at this stage in his career. But I think the right thing now is that he's not going to necessarily be in those high leverage situations, where the other guys in the Phillies pen are throwing in the upper 90s or 100. Like, let's go to those guys. And Kimbrell's still an asset for the team. He's still somebody that I've seen just dominate his entire career. He's still very useful down there, but just maybe not in that 9th inning situation anymore.
Talking to Brad Lidge, going over to the American League. We know the Rangers punched their ticket to the Fall Classic last night. Let me start you off with Bruce Bochy. Everyone tells me now the manager doesn't matter in baseball anymore. He goes there his first year with his pedigree, and now they're 4 wins away from hoisting that piece of metal that the commissioner calls it, Rob Manfred, with the commissioner's trophy.
Yeah, I guess the manager doesn't matter unless you got, Bochy or Charlie Manuel or somebody like that. Then it matters. So, I think, for me, Bochy has definitely been someone who creates a tone and an environment in which winning feels anticipated, expected. I mean, as I just mentioned, Chuck with us, like that was the expectation. That was the feeling. And the Rangers are a great team. I mean, it is remarkable to me that they're going to be representing the American League in the World Series, and they don't have a great bullpen. Like, that is not something we have seen for a while, a team being in the World Series without a really solid bullpen. And you could make an argument that they're even maybe below average, but their starting pitching has been so good, and the offense has been so explosive, even against a good staff like Houston, that, that's kind of led the way. And they haven't necessarily had tons of pressure on that bullpen, a couple games here and there, and they didn't even necessarily fare that well, but they've scored so many runs against the Astros and so many other teams that their bullpen hasn't really been, exploited in the way that maybe other teams thought they could. But yeah, the Rangers are a great ball club, super offensive unit, and it's exciting to watch them play. That was a great, incredible series against the Astros. Nobody would have seen that coming, right? The home team didn't win one freaking game in that. That's crazy.
And also Adolis Garcia, right after whatever transpired in Game 5, that dude went to a different level in Game 6 and 7.
Yeah, he did. And, I don't necessarily love all of his antics, watching, in the first inning, a ball hit off the fence there where he should have been on second base. But it's like he's so talented that he makes up for it. On the next pitch, he's still second base. And then the entire rest of the game last night, he backs it up with more home runs and just goes ballistic. So, I think that I think there's a lesson in there. There was probably a lesson for the Atlanta Braves when they chirped a little bit about Bryce, and there's a lesson for the for the Astros when they go after somebody. And look, I'm not saying that Brian Abreu did that intentionally. I really don't think he did, but it kind of became that, and all of a sudden it fueled Adolis Garcia. So I don't, you got to avoid stuff like that.
Does Scherzer have any shot of giving us a good game in the World Series? Because the last 2 years in big moments, he has struggled, and that's an understatement. I say that as a Met fan.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, for me, he is kind of a Game 4 type of starter where if he goes out there and gives you 3 or 4 good innings, great. But the expectation level for me is pretty low, and I respect the hell out of Max. I mean, he's just for him to be on the mound right now after having some rotator cuff issues going on in his shoulder, to be able to try and get back out there. But that's the competitor in him, and that's not his fault if he's going out there at 90%, 95%. And they're saying, be Max Scherzer. He's going to do everything he can, but he's not Max Scherzer right now. He's not, 100%, and he's not his former self from 5-10 years ago. So it's a really tough task. And the Rangers have, obviously a great 1-2 punch with Eovaldi and Montgomery, but and they've got other guys out there. But I don't think, I 3 or 4 innings, if Max can navigate through that, then I think he's done his job. Otherwise, you're not going to get a vintage Max Scherzer outing in the World Series. No way.
Last thing I'll ask you, going to the Astros, they've been to 7 straight ALCS. They lose last night. They dropped 6 and 7 at home like we're talking about, right? Looks like Dusty Baker's walking away as well after a legendary career. Is this the end of the road for this team? Because I hear people say that last night, and I'm like, until I see that team miss the playoffs or not be as dominant as they've been where they're not in the ALCS each and every year, I'm not going to count them out of it.
Yeah, I'm not either. Is Altuve still on that team next year? Yordan Alvarez, Bregman, if the same guys are coming back, then they're going nowhere. And, they might not play at a super high level in the regular season because, honestly, for them, they've been doing it for a long time, and they know, like, the postseason's where it's at. Now, it was surprising to see what happened in this postseason. They couldn't win at home. That is very odd. But that team's going, that team's going right back to the postseason next year. And that's where they've lived. I don't know if they'll continue to get as deep as they have. At some point, the starting pitching is going to take a hit. At some point, maybe some of the offense doesn't, light it up quite as much as they have, but it's still a great ball. I mean, top to bottom, it's still a great ball club, and the experience level is real, and the confidence is real in big situations. Seattle, it'll kind of be up to the rest of the division. Maybe Seattle leapfrogs them next year, but I don't know. To be honest, I don't even know if the Rangers will leapfrog them next year necessarily. It could be the Astros division again, and it wouldn't surprise me.
All right, one more for Brad Lidge. I think we try to make this more Hollywood than it actually is, but you always expect this big speech before Game 7. Let's say if the skipper came up to you, Rob Thompson with the Phillies, and said, Brad, you're our guy in this locker room. We want you to make the speech. What do you tell the team? And remember, it's on the radio, so keep it PG-13.
I don't know if there's a let's win one for the Gipper speech, at this point. I think at this point, it's more a matter of him just saying, go out there and be yourselves. Like, enjoy the hell out of a Game 7 because, frankly, as you just said, it hasn't happened before in the history of the franchise. Be the first to show, what you guys are like in a Game 7, for the city of Philadelphia. But there is so much. I don't even think anything needs to be said. That would be my final thought there. They know what's on the line. I mean, they're such a talented group. I don't think there's anything you could say that would sound like super genuine or a fire-up speech. Like they're already there.
He pitched for the Phillies, the Astros, and, of course, wrapped up his career with the Nationals. Now does a great job MLB Network Radio. He is Brad Lidge. Brad, always appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you, Zach. We'll talk to you again soon.
You got it. There he is, Brad Lidge, joining us right here on CBS Sports Radio. Wrap up the show next. Update time first. Here's the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports
Sports Flash.
Well, one half of the World Series is set, the other half to be determined tonight. The National League champion will be crowned with the Diamondbacks and Phillies going to a Game 7 in the biggest game of the season. Arizona starts rookie Brandon Pfaadt, who was 3-9 in the regular season with an ERA well over 5, but he has been terrific in the playoffs, pitching to a 2.13 ERA, and the bigger the moment, the better he's been.
I think just it being more meaningful games, I think you game plan a little more, you have a little more edge going out there, and you know that it's a must-win game. I think that's where the competitive nature comes in.
Ranger Suarez starts for the Phillies as they look to get back to the World Series after winning the pennant as a surprise last year. Bob Melvin reportedly leaving the Padres to take over as manager of the Giants. The NBA season opens with a pair of games. The defending champions played the first game of the year with Denver hosting the Lakers, whom they swept in last year's playoffs. The Suns and Warriors tip off tonight in San Francisco with Draymond Green missing this one due to an ankle injury, and the Rams have released kicker Brett Maher. I'm Rich Ackerman.
Looking for CBS Sports Radio online, Maggie? Your favorite hosts and the best sports content and entertainment are available 24/7 on social media and YouTube.
And in the palm of your hand, Perloff with the free Odyssey app.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio.
The Cowboys actually have regressed from where they are the last 2 years. Because the last 2 times in a big playoff game against the San Francisco 49ers, those games were actually close. Those games came down to Dak Prescott not being able to get the ball in the end zone at the end of the game. That was a good old-fashioned ass whooping where the 49ers just destroyed the Dallas Cowboys.
This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Good job by Manny Rodriguez today on the tunes. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Wrapping up the biggest story of the day, Jim Harbaugh and the Michigan Wolverines. So you have all these allegations of the sign-stealing scandal. Stealing signs isn't illegal, but when you use technology, when you send someone to a future opponent's game, it is. So with this, I think it creates a difficult situation because we know the passion that is there of college football fans. And I do believe a lot of the conversation in the last 24, 48 hours is a gross overreaction. I do not think this is something that you just say, oh, nothing to see here. Oh, no big deal. Like, it's not the end of the world. There needs to be some punitive action. I thought actually Matt Rule said it best, Manny. Actually, if we want to get back to this audio of Matt Rule on sign stealing, just let me know when you have it. I thought what Matt Rule said the other day at his press conference was actually the best thing.
Sign stealing happens every game. There's nothing wrong with teams over there looking over trying to steal our signs. There's nothing wrong with us trying to look at their signs. We could get rid of all the stupid signs on the sidelines, and we could get pictures of, rock stars and all that stuff, and we could just play football. But that's sign stealing. I would not carry that over to going and filming someone else's practices or something like that, or filming someone else's games. That's completely something different. Sports need rules to keep competitive balance. And when someone does something against the rules, we say, well, should that really even be a rule? And it is the rule. We don't get 5 downs. If that is happening somewhere, it's completely, completely wrong.
That's a great take. And I think he's on to something where they have communication through the headsets in high school. They have it in the pros, right, to the quarterback, to the linebacker, whoever the defensive captain is, the play caller on the field. And in college, they don't. So what does the signs mean if you're doing everything electronically, if you were just able to have that communication device? So that's one thing. The other part is, yes, rules are broken. There needs to be a punishment. But that does not mean the punishment needs to be so severe as if this is the greatest infraction that has ever happened in the history of college athletics. And that's the thing that I have the biggest issue with in the last 48 hours or so. You have Penn State fans who are annoyed that they just lost to Ohio State. And you have Ohio State fans that can't stand that Michigan has beat them the last 2 years and are like, oh, this is why we lost. It's because Michigan had our signs. So now those two fan bases are fed up, and they're going to want like the death penalty for Michigan, which is absurd. Which, let me remind you, it's the same two fan bases that defended Urban Meyer in the whole Zach Smith situation and defended Joe Paterno in the Jerry Sandusky situation, which were a lot more serious things. Those are life things. Those are off-the-field things that were absolutely abhorrent. But people are going to say, oh, this is about the integrity of the game. Okay, yeah, Michigan did something wrong, allegedly. So there should be a punishment. But it doesn't mean that Michigan now needs to be held out of a bowl game this year. Or the NCAA has to swoop in and expedite the process, which they never do, and not allow Michigan or have the Big Ten not allow them to compete in the Big Ten championship. Like, that never is going to happen. You're going to let this play out, and if there's eventually wins that get vacated, which is the dumbest thing that goes on in the NCAA, where they try to ignore the results that happen, then that's what transpires. But ultimately, I said this before the start of the season, with the other recruiting violations that occurred, and now I believe it even more today, and I'll double down on it, Jim Harbaugh, which he needs to take some responsibility for this, which he's not going to admit it right now, and he's going to say he had no knowledge of this, and right, the Marine is going to turn out to be like John Jastrzemski. Remember, John Jastrzemski was one of the deflators in Deflategate. That was the name of the guy, where they'll pay him off and he'll go live a life somewhere and you'll never hear from him again. So that's what's going to happen here. But Harbaugh has put himself in a position where it's either you're going to have to face what the NCAA is going to do to you and your program, or at the end of the year, you're going to bail. And there is part of me that wants to say, I'd love to see Harbaugh stick it to the NCAA and say, I'm not going anywhere. Do like the Jordan Belfort thing where you go, I'm not leaving. I'm not going anywhere. And have an unbelievable fun time. But I do believe Harbaugh is going back to the NFL. Hey, by the way, Samter, you want to hear a fun fact about the Gelb family?
No.
I'm going to give you one anyway. Maybe you could dress up as a mole as Halloween, and we'll play whack-a-mole here. That could be your costume. My mother actually dated the real Wolf of Wall Street in college, Jordan Belfort, for like 2 years. They had a long-term relationship. Now, let me say that again. My mother dated the Wolf of Wall Street, the real Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort. There's some moron on Twitter who keeps on tweeting people and goes, Gelb's mom dated Anthony Scaramucci. So clean out your ears a little bit. I never said my mother dated Anthony Scaramucci. My mother would never date Anthony Scaramucci. She dated Jordan Belfort, but there's some idiot on Twitter that keeps on tweeting me that.
Now, did Margot Robbie portray your mother on the big screen?
That's not a nice thing to ask someone. That's not. That's my mother we're talking about
Margot
here.
Robbie is she's an award-winning actress.
And sorry,
she's very
Mom.
talented.
Sorry, Mom, if you're listening. No Margot Robbie, if we're being honest here. But no, my mother, whoever Margot Robbie played was not my mother. My mother never married Jordan Belfort. They just were like college sweethearts. He used to actually sell, one of his first jobs, he used to sell steaks to all the homes in the neighborhood. So like you would knock on the door and it'd be like Jordan Belfort selling steaks to everyone in the neighborhood. They're like, oh, sweet Jordan. And then we found out what Jordan Belfort ended up becoming.
Was Jonah Hill walking around behind Mr. Belfort?
That I don't know. I wasn't alive, so I can't tell you. I just know that they dated. There's some pictures. They've done dinner together, like when I don't even know if he lives in the United States anymore. They've done dinner together with my dad and stuff throughout the years and things like that when the book came out and the movie came out and all that stuff. But there's a little Gelb connection right there when you least expect it. But anyway, getting back to Harbaugh here. Harbaugh's going to leave. Harbaugh's not going to do Belfort in the Wolf of Wall Street and say, I'm not leaving. No. He's going to the NFL. And the four teams that I think right now are in the lead spot for the Harbaugh sweepstakes. It's the Los Angeles Chargers, it's the Buffalo Bills, it's the Chicago Bears, and it's the Washington Commanders. And I think the two most likeliest destinations would be the Commanders, and then it would also, it's not going to be the Chargers. It should be the Chargers because they have the most talent. But I would then say it's the Chicago Bears where he's played. Because I do believe control is going to be a big thing here with what happened at the end in San Francisco with Trent Baalke. I believe Harbaugh's going to want control. You have a new owner in Josh Harris. He'll hand the entire organization over to Jim Harbaugh. And the Bears, Like, you're going to let Ryan Poles get in the way of this? No, you get rid of Ryan Poles and you'd have him being the GM and the coach of the football team if he wants to do that, or he gets to bring in his guy. So I think the Commanders and the Bears, they'll spend the money. They're the two more desperate teams to make a splash, where logically it should be the Chargers or the Bills. If things continue to go south like the way they are this year with Sean McDermott, yeah, if you're Harbaugh, you'd rather have a better team than the Bills and the Chargers. But I don't know with the Bean connection if the Bills will actually move on from McDermott. And for the Chargers, I can't ever expect the Spanos family to do what is logical. Logically, Harbaugh should be their coach. He should be. But what makes sense to us doesn't always make dollar and cents to the Spanos family. So I would say right now, Bears and Commanders right at the top. Then right underneath, it's the Chargers. And the Bills are hovering, and we'll see if they just have the cojones to pull the trigger and take the rug out from underneath Sean McDermott. All righty. Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio. Fun show today. Big thanks to Manny Rodriguez for producing this extravaganza along with Moist Mike. We'll see if that starts to get trended. Moist Mike. Maybe put that on a T-shirt. Like to thank Roman Wilson for stopping by. Also Robert Horry as well, and Brad Lidge. And Big Mike CBS, Michael Santa, looks like he wants to throw some things at me after calling you Moist Mike. You even going to show up tomorrow now?
I want to throw up. Forget about throwing things at you.
Okay. We learned today Santa does not like the word moist. All right. You have a Moisty Tuesday, Santa.
Oh, God. Come on.
We'll see you tomorrow on a Moisty Wednesday. And then we got a Moisty Thursday, a Moisty Friday, a Moisty Saturday, a Moisty Sunday, and then a Moisty Monday. All righty, everybody. We out. Bye-bye. Have a good one. Peace.
You're in a 5-minute break.